Sorry, family. Mike was muted. Mike was muted. Shalom, family. Shalom. We back. We back. We back with another one. Salaki, we about to get started in a minute. Hold on, family. Yes, sir. So we back. We back. Got a good lesson tonight. The elder will be on in a second. As you can see, it's last days and biblical timelines. Hey, can you give me some water? You know, I got a jug of water. That jug of water, yeah. So, it's gonna be real interesting. Shalom, Harry Lewis, from Egypt to Israel. Shalom, the water. Don, Israel. Shalom. Happy to see everybody in. I hope everybody's having a beautiful Sabbath, a beautiful start to their Sabbath. All praises to the Most High God. All praises, Princess Erica. Shalom, sis. Shalom. You can leave those on. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Can you that's cool. Yeah. Got a good class today. So the elder kind of been going over like prophecy and prophetic time. So I'm looking forward to this one. Last days and biblical timeline. That's a good one. So it's a lot going on in today's time. Just how close we are to the end. You know, it's actually kind of scary. It's actually kind of scary how close we are to the end. So definitely got to pay attention to the signs of the times in today's time. So the elder is going to break it down into a chronological situation, with the power of the Most High, just showing the different things and events that are going to take place. Let me pull out a preset while we're waiting for the elder. And pull out something real quick because it's getting scary, y'all. It's getting scary. When you really start reading these scriptures, it's crazy because we're living in these times, so it's kind of like normalized in a sense. But then when you bring it home and really open up the word and just see just how close we are to everything popping out, it can get a little scary, and we're going to need the will of the Most High God. Shalom, Hebrew daughter, all praises to the Most High. Good to see you on here. This is Matthew 25 and 25 while we're waiting for the elder. It says, Matthew chapter 25, verse 1. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made. All slumbered and slept. Salakia, verse 6. And at midnight there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, not so, lest there be any enough for us, right? And you. But go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with them to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterwards came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, verily I say unto you, I know you not. I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. So that is a parable, right, of the virgins, right, the 10 virgins. And you have the foolish and you have the wise. So it's an analogy of us preparing for the signs of the time, always staying on guard because we don't know when that time is to come. We don't know when the Most High is going to crack that sky open and actually come back. So the fact that we don't know that, we have to be watchful and vigilant of the times and see that these things are coming, because it's going to be some of us that are going to come and they are not going to be ready. All right. They are not going to be ready. So we want to make sure that we're steadfast and that we're ready. All right. Shalom, family. And this is why these classes are important. All right. This is why these classes are important. These classes are important because it's showing us the times so that we can be ready for when the Lord cracks that sky open. Because like I said, Esau's very crafty. He makes us feel comfortable in this present time. You don't feel a drought necessarily. You don't feel feel a shortage of food necessarily. You don't feel these things because he has his GMOs and he has his ways of trying to produce food that is not even real, but we can eat every day. You can go down the street to a McDonald's. Even though the food is killing us, we don't feel anything because we can eat. We don't feel anything because you can go get water as you will at this moment. So you don't really understand the signs. You know, he gives you entertainment to keep you from understanding the times and the signs of what's going on, right? So that was that parable of the virgins, right? You had the foolish and you had the wise. Now, this is why we have to bring this stuff out and bring these biblical timelines out, because once you get familiar with the biblical timeline, you can always stay on guard and not be lost in the sauce in the world that we live in today. Because you see concerts going on and you see entertainment happening, you see movies coming out, and you don't pay attention to what the signs of the times are, and boom, just like that, the Lord comes back in return, right? So these are very, very, very important lessons. I'm gonna keep reading verse 14. Watch this. It says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling." Did you want to read out? Are you good? Yeah, if you want to. It says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several abilities. And straightway took his journey. Then he that had received 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise, he that had received 2, he also gained another 2. But he that had received 1 went and dug in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought another 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained besides them 5 talents more. Right? His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. So this is about the servants of the Lord, right? So the servants of the Lord were commanded to teach these things. You good? You got it. We're commanded to teach the scriptures and to prepare the way for the nation of Israel, right? And to have his kingdom business spread. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, we're also going to get punished, right? So not only do we have to make sure we're a righteous example of living right, but when you continue, I see the elder just came on, so I'm gonna bring the elder on. But when you continue to read from verse 21, you can see that we don't have time to not preach this gospel, and we don't have time to take and be lackadaisical with the times that we're living in. Hold on one second. I'm gonna bring the elder in. Shalom, elder. Can you hear me?
Hey, shalom. Sorry about that, man. I was having issues trying to.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. I was just reading a brief synopsis of Matthew 24, since I know you're going through the last days and the biblical timeline of the last days. So I was just kind of reading through Matthew 24, just explaining to them how important it is for us to stay watchful and stay ready and stay vigilant. But now that you're on here, I'll give it right to you, so we don't have to delay.
No, go ahead. I need to fix something real quick.
Okay, con. You can read. You can scoot over to and you can read verse 22. Yeah. Matthew 25 and verse 22. Real quick, while the elder's getting ready. I just finished this last.
This is Matthew chapter 25 and verse 22.
Uh-huh.
He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them.
All right, so you had one servant came, traded, and he got 5 more talents. And now you have another servant. He did what he was supposed to do, and he gained 2 more talents beside him, right? Read.
Come, verse 23. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler of all, or over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord.
Read.
Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there has that in thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant.
All right, so then you also got slothful servants. So you got You got servants that are actually putting in the work, doing what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be teaching this gospel right now. Then you have brothers that are talented, have all the talent in the world, know the scriptures, but they're slothful. And they're hiding their talent. Hiding their talent, meaning they're not putting what the Most High God has given them to use. You can scoot over a little more.
Yeah.
Is not putting what the Lord has given them to put to use. So when the Lord comes back and you're being doubtful of, should I go and preach the word? Should I go preach the gospel? Should I find a camp and get in that organization? Should I do more for the Lord and the Most High? And this is just not men. This is women too. What are you doing for the Lord, sisters? Are you putting in your work for the Lord? Are you in your congregation or in your church and putting in the work and serving the nation of Israel under the commandments of the Lord, right? These are the talents that the Lord is showing forth for us. Brothers that are out there lazy, you don't want to go out street teaching. You don't want to do the work of the Lord. You don't want to put feast days together. You don't want to, you want to say you're an Israelite, because you got a lot of people that say they're Israelites, but they're not really putting the talent to use to push the word out. So this is that servant. And when the Lord comes back, the Lord is not going to be happy with that servant if you did not represent him to the fullest. So you're going to have a lot of people in that day that's going to say, Lord, Lord, and he's going to say, I knew you not, right? You're going to have a lot of people in that day. So what did he say? Keep reading.
Come, thou knewest that I reap where I sow not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming, I should have received my own with usury.
So you should have did something with my money, something with what I blessed you with. This is why us at BOW, we put in the work. This is why we labor. You got the elder laboring, putting together classes, putting together edification, studying, trying to get the truth out to our people, putting up videos, reaching people, having classes in different states and things of that nature. We're doing this because we're trying to put the talent that the Lord has given us to use. Because if we don't, then it might be too late. So in the parable in Matthew 25 is a great chapter to read, because it puts you in a mind state of the coming up, to prepare for the coming of the Lord, right? You have the servant parable, you have the 10 virgin parable, and let's just read one more, because I think, Elder, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready when you are, bro.
Okay, Khan, let's read one more in Matthew 25, and then we'll pass it to the elder.
Okay.
Read verse 31.
God, this is Matthew 25 and verse 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory.
See, everybody right now in this world, they got their glory. All these YouTube influencers, all these people with these double chains on and these big thick chains and money and all of that, and you looking at people online and they living their best life and all that, they got their glory. That's their glory. We have given up that. I'm 30 years old. This young brother is 18 years old. You know what I mean? The elder been in it for a while. But us young men, including the elder, we have given up the ways and wanting to ball in this life. We will rather ball in the next life. So the Lord says, look, I'm going to come in my glory. See, we want to ball when the Lord comes in his glory. That's why we putting in the work that we putting in. That's why we could be doing anything right now on Friday night. We could be out there at clubs, partying and all of that. But we are letting that lifestyle go, because we would rather not glory in this lifestyle and glory with Yahweh Shai when he returns. Keep reading that. We're going to finish this off.
Verse 32. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats.
Read.
And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on the right hand, Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the earth.
Man, and that's what we are waiting to hear. We are waiting to hear the words that the Lord is going to say to the chosen, the elect. Come and prepare, come and receive what the Father has prepared for you from the foundation of the earth. And that's when we're going to ball, and that's when we're going to be glorified with the Father. So I just want to kind of go through that, because the elder is going to be touching on last days and the timeline of what things are going to happen and transpire. And I just want to get you guys' mind ready for that, and this is why we do these lessons. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it on to over to Ra'am Israel, the elder. Shalom, elder. I'll give it over to you.
Shalom, bro. Shalom. How brothers doing? Y'all good?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Con, man. Yeah, that's important. What you were laying down. And that was what we had talked about in the last class, of how important it is that we're seeing these prophecies unfold to give us a sign as to how close we really are. You know, so that remember that first scripture I brought out last week where it said that what is this proverb in the land of Israel that says the where every vision faileth and the vision is prolonged, like the prophecies aren't going to be fulfilled. You know what I mean? And that's what people are thinking, and people are losing faith, thinking like, well, they've been saying it's the last days for centuries, and it's never happened. But not knowing how the prophecies are unfolding is what's causing a lot of people to stumble. You know, so we able, you know, having the Spirit and the Most High imparting a lot of this, the prophecies that have been fulfilled throughout the centuries and the ages, we're able to see it as history. So we're able to have a grip and a better understanding than a lot of those that came before us, because a lot of the things that we're reading about weren't fulfilled yet. So now that we're able to see that these things actually happen, one, it gives us a better understanding of what the Most High is saying in the scriptures. It should be signs for us to even understand how true the Bible is. You know, that's a confirmation right there. So when people want to come up against the scriptures, you know what? There's no book that's laying down what's happening right now in this time than what the scriptures are saying. You know what I mean? So we have to make sure that, one, we're locked in with the Most High. We're on his page. We're abiding by his ways, his statutes, his commandments, and we're doing what's needed to be done so that we're found worthy to be in that likeness with the Most High. You know what I mean? But you know, one thing that you've seen in the last few classes we've been talking about the beast a lot. The red dragon. We've been, you know, the beast with 7 heads, 10 horns. The last class we went over was the 12 feathers, the eagle with the 12 feathers.
That was a great lesson too, by the way, Elder.
Hey, all praise, I appreciate it. But what the Most High is showing us, Israel, is that, one, when we go, you know, and I don't want to go over it again because we went over it enough, but I want to show how the Most High is laying down that prophetic timeline for us. Because here's a question. Let's go to the book of Matthew.
Yeah, you got it.
Matthew 24.
Oh, we in the spirit.
I see.
God. What verse, King?
Let's read verse 15.
God. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 15.
Did you read this one?
I did. Did I read 15? No, I don't think.
Chapter 25.
I was on 25. I'm sorry, Salakia. You on 24. I went to 25. Salakia.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. But it's one chapter over. We're good.
Yeah, God.
So let's read verse 15.
God, this is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 15.
But before that, let's drop up real quick to let's read verse 1.
God, this is Matthew chapter 24 from the top. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple.
Read on.
And Jesus said unto him, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
So Christ was explaining and showing that his apostles that, look, you see the temple today, but rest assured, soon you will not see this temple. So he was preparing them for that particular departure and talking about, telling them, alerting them about what was going to happen to the Israelites in the future. So one, the temple was going to end up being destroyed. That occurred in the year 70 AD, okay, by the Romans. They infiltrated Vespasian, Titus, these Caesars at the time, infiltrated Jerusalem, put a siege on it, where the Israelites were persecuted, murdered, starved out, afflicted, tortured, you know, for that period of time, causing a lot of them to even flee out, to go into areas of Asia Minor, flee into the areas of Africa and what have you. And that was known as the final diaspora of Israel. Okay. So Christ was prophesying about that. At this time, the apostles didn't know what was going on. They were like, what are you talking about? We're here in Jerusalem. We have the priesthood, we have the law, we have everything. So how are we not going to have a temple? But rest assured, did it happen?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So that's where we're able to see prophecy for them turns into history for us. You see? Read on.
Verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
See that? So this is the question that has been asked not only by us in this generation, but even by our forefathers back then. Okay. When shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? When will we know when you're going to return? You see? So that's knowing that right there. That's a broad statement. That's a broad question to ask. Howard Shai, when you returning?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to read the scriptures to go into to get the timeline. That's why we telling this lesson. This is a biblical timeline of the last days, because several things had to occur. That's why we've gone over Daniel chapter 7, where we had to talk about Babylon. Now remember, Babylon was in the 5th century BC.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the Babylonians in power. Then we had the Persian and Medes come into power, which puts you into the 4th century BC. Then the Greeks come into power, will put you into the 3rd century BC. You see what I mean? Then the Romans come into power, will put you into the 1st century BC. And that's at the time frame where Christ walks the earth, is at the time ancient Rome is in power. So you see how the Most High brought us through these centuries real quick to bring us up to the time of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So then we went into the 12 feathers, which were the 12 Caesars or the 12 emperors of Rome. I went over that. Those that may have missed that class, you can check it out last week. It's called the 12 feathers, where we talk about that period of time, how the 12 feathers, starting with Julius Caesar, going into Augustus, going into all the rest of them in consecutive order until that particular dynasty of emperors had ended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then it puts you into what was known as the tetrarchy, the two tetrarchies, which were the 8 rulers, the 4 that controlled the East and the 4 that controlled Western Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And now that puts you up to the time of the Byzantine Empire, which puts you all the way from the time of Julius Caesar up to the destruction of Rome, which was in 476 AD.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So the Most High is showing you that. So then another lesson we went into was called the 1,000 years.
Yes. Yep. That was a good one. Yep.
You see what I mean? So that 1,000 years is when Rome had fell, which was the beast that we've been reading about all these lessons, because it's crucial. The Most High wants us to understand that so that we can get a time frame, because that's going to answer the question that the apostles is asking Christ: which shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So the prophets knew it wasn't in their time, but now that we're starting to see these prophecies become history for us, now we're seeing how we went all the way from the 5th century BC up to the time of Christ with Rome ruling, up into the 3rd century AD, up to the fall of Rome, which was 476. Then the 1,000 years of when Rome had fell and was incapacitated, which the scriptures tell you in Revelations 13, the beast's wound had a wound that was wounded to death.
Mm-hmm.
Then his deadly wound was healed after that 1,000 years. Will put you into what? 1400s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see in Revelations 12 how that dragon now took full form. You see what I mean? All of this is Esau, starting with the Greeks to the Romans, all the way up through to the time of the Renaissance. The scriptures is showing us how this is going to unfold. Then we see that what's going to happen in that 14th century, that's when the Israelites are going to be tread upon, just put to death. We see that that's happened with the Spaniards when they came into the Americas, and the French, the Portuguese, the British, through slave trade, all of that, and that brings us up to now. Y'all see what's going on?
Yeah.
See? So when he says, what shall be the sign of thy coming in the end of the world, we know that first, all that has to happen before we can even think about it. You see what I mean? It wouldn't happen in the 5th century BC. It wouldn't happen in the 5th century AD. It would happen now. And then remember, what did the scripture say in Hosea? After 2 days will he revive us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 3rd day we shall what? Live in his sight.
Right.
And then the precept for that, it says that a day to the Lord is what? 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So 2,000 years. And what time? When was the reviving start? Is when Christ walked the earth. Remember, Christ revived us by what? Dying and giving us life and allowing us to receive the Spirit so that we could be again united with the Most High. That was the reviving right there.
Mhm.
So 2,000 years from the time of Christ puts us in what? In this time frame where we're in now. So it links up from that point of view. It links up with the prophecies of the beast and the rulership, from starting with the Babylonians up to the Romans, up through the Byzantine Empire, up to the Renaissance, up till now.
Mhm.
See what's going on?
Mhm.
So when we're able to go into the scriptures and point that out and show that, which we did in the last few lessons, I want to say the last 3 lessons we did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, because we did the third day,
Yeah,
50. Then we did the 1,000-year.
yeah. And then we did the 12 feathers last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those 3 lessons are going to show you that time frame from Babylon up till the time where the beast gets fully manifested in that 14th century, which is the Renaissance. Now we're going to pick up from there and bring it up to now. Okay, because remember, we see Babylon, we see that this beast with iron teeth, which was Rome, that would come up and be strong. We know that these are Edomite empires. We proved that in the last lesson. Actually, we proved that in several of the lessons.
Mhm.
But the last one, even in particular, because remember, Esau was prophesied to have dominion over the earth.
Mhm.
When did that happen?
It hasn't happened anytime prior to this time.
That's right. So we know that Esau came into power in the 3rd century BC with the Greeks.
Yeah.
Alexander. Then that power transferred to Rome. Then remember, Rome went out to conquer all the world. Rome, their chief operating countries became France, Spain, Germany. What was the other one?
Portugal.
Britain.
Oh, Britain. Yeah, Britain.
Okay, Greece. These were his headquarters, and that became where we start to pick up at what the dragon is. You understand, the red dragon in Revelations, because now John sees this beast, sees the Esau, the Edomite Empire in full bloom now.
Mhm.
Whereas Daniel saw it at an early stage.
Mhm.
Then Ezra saw it at early when he gave you the inception of how the Caesars came about, but we didn't see the end of the kingdom yet. You understand? We saw the beginning, we saw the early stages. Then his wound, then the beast had a wound. It was wounded to death. That was that 1,000-year period. It laid idle.
Mhm.
Then it was resurrected again. That wound was healed for it to continue rulership, and it picks up in the 14th century.
Mhm.
Okay, and then it goes from there to where its head start to afflict the children of Israel. France, Spain, Britain. You see, Greece, Rome, they had already done that to us then. But the
Mhm.
ones that would do it to us in the future were the 3 that I just named. And then there's a little horn that's mentioned that will come up among them, which would be America. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's continue in that Matthew. So he said, what shall be the sign that I come in at the end of the world?
God, this is Matthew 24 and verse 4.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you.
So one thing that we have to make sure that we have to stay grounded in these scriptures. We have to stay locked in these scriptures. That way you won't get deceived. Oh, the end ain't yet. Oh, the end is happening in 2020. Oh, the end happened in 1999. See, when you stick to what the prophecies are saying, and the Most High has given us that understanding, so we're able to sit there and say, damn, we know that it wasn't back. We know that something has to happen and occur in this time frame now.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So let's I'm gonna come back here, but I want to jump to that verse 15.
Okay, I'll go to 15 for you. And 24.
Yeah, 24 and 15.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place.
So now that was important because that's talking about the Romans, okay? Talking about at the time, because remember, the Greeks had already came forth. Remember, the Maccabees had revolted, brought salvation for a period of time for the Jews. But then when Rome came into power, the persecution started again.
Mhm.
So the abomination of desolation is talking about the year 70 AD, when the Romans would come in and put atrocities upon the Israelites, causing them to flee out of Jerusalem.
Mhm.
Okay, that's when we began to be scattered throughout the corners of the earth. And also when all the tribes began to migrate into the Americas as it was prophesied. Remember, 2nd Ezra 14 lets us know that the 10 tribes were already over here at that time. You see what I mean? And then we see that in the 16th century, 1600s, what happened? The rest of the tribes came into the Americas on slave ships to spiritual Egypt to join up with the rest of the tribes to where the prophecies will continue to be carried out in the midst of that little horn known as America. Okay, you see, so this is how the scriptures is lining up for us. So it said, when you shall see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, read on.
Whoso readeth, let him understand.
Because he prophesied that in the book of Daniel. Okay, and Christ, that's why Christ said that there will not be one stone of the temple left unturned, showing you that there's going to be a destruction. So at that point, read on.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
So that's how dangerous it was going to be, where you had to leave. It was no time to go back to gather some things, pack a bag, you know, get your shaving kit and all of that. No, Israel had to get out of Dodge because the Romans were coming in with great slaughter. Okay, so that was a key point to let us know that had to happen first. You understand? So 70 AD had to occur before anything we can even imagine that the end times would be. You following? You see what I'm saying? So because the apostles asked them, well, what shall be the sign that I come in? But remember, Christ is letting them know, look, it ain't happening now because there's a whole lot of prophecies that have to be fulfilled. But
the start of it is the temple being destroyed.
That was one marker. 70 AD. You understand? That's a marker. So we have the beast, the 4 beasts in Daniel chapter 7, Babylon, Persia, Medes, Greece, Rome. Rome is the 4th beast. After the 4th beast, the kingdom of Christ comes in. So that's showing us that Rome, which is an Edomite kingdom, they're going to have the longest rule. They're going to be ruling from that time up to the coming of Christ. That's why the scripture says Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Showing you that the kingdom that will be in power at the coming of Christ will be what? Edomites, which is who? The so-called white man.
Yes.
You see what I mean? It's no China coming up after. It's no other. Whatever they want to talk. No. That's why the scriptures is giving us this clean timeline, one after the other, showing us historical events that have to happen so that we see and we can look back now and say, wow, wait a minute. We can go all the way from the 5th century to Babylon, come all the way up to the time of Christ, go through, because remember, Christ lived during the time of some of the Caesars. You see what I mean? So we saw that in the 12 feathers when you read 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and chapter 12. So from the time of Christ, 70 AD occurred because that was happened through what? Two of the Caesars, Titus and Vespasian. You see what I mean? So 2 of the 12 Caesars are accountable and responsible for the affliction of what happened to the Jews in 70 AD. As they said, remember, he said he shall stomp the residue, and he shall what? Wear out the saints of the Most High. Y'all see that? So that prophecy had to go down. So now we start to see as that wound was, as Rome fell, then Rome came back. And that's prophesied in 1,000 years that we read about in Revelations 20. Understand? Because from 472, when Rome fell, up to 1,000 years puts us in what? 1472, around the time of the Renaissance. Now we see that the other heads of this beast are now thriving. You understand? And now they're doing the same thing that they were prophesied to do, which was what? Afflict and stomp the residue and afflict the Jews. You see what's going on? So now we understand when we start to look at the heads of this Edomite empire, we see the first head was what? Greece. Then another head was Rome. And then Rome went in and took control of Greece. They took control of France. They took control of Spain. Okay. They took control of England, which was the Anglos at that time. You see what I mean? Took control of Germany. Because when you watch that movie Gladiator, that opening scene took place in what was known as Germania. That's Germany at that time, and they were considered barbaric. They got conquered. So Germany was all these heads are under Roman rule at that time. And then what happened? They started to blossom. They started to flourish, and they became powerful. And that's how these 7 kingdoms are the heads of the beast or the Edomite nation. That's how its power starts to resonate. And also Russia, but Russia came later. Okay. And the scriptures in Revelation 17 is going to talk about how the heads came up. Okay. So we see that the abomination of desolation, which was 70 AD, had to occur. Okay. Before we even think about the end. So we passed that period now. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's shoot to Revelations 12.
Okay. You got it.
Yeah. So now we see that Rome is the last kingdom that will rule the world before the coming of Christ. Okay. Now, although you have nations that have power like China, like Ukraine and places like that, but they're no comparison to these heads. You understand? They're no comparison. Okay. So that's what we have to look at. Remember, we're dealing with Rome and Rome's extended heads that create the conglomerate of the Edomite nation. That's how he was able to have dominion over the earth like he was prophesied to have. Because when you look at it, remember, who controls every continent? Esau.
Colonized.
Who controls North America?
Esau.
Who controls South America?
Esau.
Who controls the majority of Africa?
Esau.
Who controls Asia?
Esau. He colonized everything.
And even if you want to get down, even like I mentioned before, Antarctica, it's a continent. However, he has control of it through what's known as the Arctic Treaty.
Yeah.
Which is a body of the countries that belong to Esau, the Edomites.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's now when the scripture says that he shall have the dew of the earth and shall be a man of the field, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion. This is his dominion right now in its fullest. Rome had a good portion. They didn't have all of the earth yet. But when we fast forward to this kingdom now, they have control over all the earth, every hemisphere, from the 4 corners of the world. This man has the power. If you even go like we talked about last week, when you go into the Pacific Islands and things like that, he controls that.
Yep.
You go into the Philippines, and I remember Spain, they conquered all that. They took all of that. Spain and France took all of South and Central America. You see what I'm saying? And even had colonies in North America.
Yep.
You see? So these are the things. So that's how the beast started to blow up and become strong. Okay, to be this power now. So Daniel saw it in his infant stage. Now, when we get to the New Testament and read Revelations, now John is seeing this kingdom at its fullest now.
Full power, yeah.
As we see it today. Okay. So he's seeing a prophecy. Revelations 12. Let's read verse 1.
God, this is Revelations chapter 12 and verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet. And upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
And upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now we know that that's talking about the nation of Israel. Okay. All right. Why? Remember, it says a woman, because the Most High likened Israel to a comely and delicate woman, according to Jeremiah 6:2. Read on.
Verse 2. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
Now I went over this. I'm just kind of just touching on it because I want to get to the beast. Okay. And I know we have people that come in that may not have seen it, so I'm just kind of going over it. But everyone, you could go back, watch the lessons that we did, because I go into this chapter extensively. Okay, the 1,000 year. I go in that 1,000-year lesson. I go into it. And she being with child, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Why is Israel in pain? Because, and who's the child? Christ is the child. Remember, Christ is prophesied to come out of the nation of Israel. But the Most High is using an analogy as a woman, okay? Because Israel is going to give birth to what? To Christ, the Savior, who shall save them. Okay, read on. Now watch this.
Come. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
See that? So now, a great red dragon. Now, we went over this before. This is the nation of Edom. That clue right there is red. Also, too, when you read Daniel 7, the fourth beast, Rome, it tells you that it had 10 horns.
Mm-hmm.
So it's showing you that this kingdom is an extension of Rome.
Yep.
But now 7 heads, 7 powers have come up to make this beast as powerful as it is.
Con.
You see, at the time of Rome, it was only 2 heads that made it powerful, which was what? Greece, the first head, and Rome, the head that was currently ruling at the time when John is getting this prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? But John is now being transported through prophecy in the future to see this beast at its fullest. So now he sees this red dragon, this Edomite kingdom that has 7 strong heads. And I already showed you which they were, which was the first one, Greece. Rome was a head, then Spain, France, Germany, Russia, and Great Britain.
Yes.
And then the little horn, which is the 8th that you're going to read about in Revelation 17. Remember, Great Britain stems forth who? America.
Yes.
All of this is the whole infrastructure of the so-called white man and the whole aspect of his power.
And if anybody wants to know how the elder came up with that, not really came up because he didn't come up with it, but if you want to know where we got that information or that knowledge that Rome is this actual dragon, all you have to do is go to Daniel and read Daniel. Daniel lets you know that Rome is this beast. All right. And you can't fight it. Daniel already had the vision. So that's why the elder's taking you back to Daniel, because Daniel is where we get the actual context of who this beast is in Revelations 12. Real quick, I think somebody asked, well, who is the dragon that comes out the water? It is Rome, which is a Caucasian nation, which we know through Esdras is the last nation, which is Esau. So if you're wondering, how do you get Rome? You know, you might got some people that just came in. How did you get?
It's gonna break it down right here.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead, Elder. I just want to say
break it down right here. Go ahead. In verse 3.
Yep, there you go.
God, verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
So rulership, read on. This great beast is one king. It's a nation of people that runs 7 countries that make up the power structure of what's ruling the world. Understand that part of it. Read on. Now let's find out who it is. Read on.
And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven.
The stars of heaven are the Israelites. Who afflicted the Israelites? We're going to find out. Read on.
And did cast them to the earth.
Read.
And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Well, who stood? Remember, the child is Christ, right? Who stood to try to kill Christ as soon as he was born?
Esau.
Herod. And let's just go there really quick, just for those that may not know. Let's get Matthew 2.
Yeah, Khan.
The scriptures answer themselves.
Khan. What verse you want? What verse? Verse 2. Matthew 2. 2 and
Let's read verse 1.
Verse 1. Okay. This is Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judah in the days of Herod the king.
Now, Herod was a governor of Rome. Okay. Now, what's important about this is that, remember, Herod was an ancestor of the Herodian dynasty. The Herodians were Edomites. Remember, Herod was the son of Antipater, the Idumean. Idumea is the Greek transliteration of the word Edom. See, Esau tries to cover himself now, but the scriptures, he can't cover himself. He cannot cover himself. He's exposed. And that's another prophecy that the scriptures talk about. So it says that in the days of Herod, okay, who was an Edomite, watch this. Remember, what did the prophecy say? That the dragon stood before the woman to devour her child as soon as it was born. So when Christ was born, Herod, read on.
It says, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him.
Now read on verse 3.
Verse 3, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
Why were they troubled? Because they know the prophecy of Christ. Remember, the Jews still had the scriptures. They still had the priesthood. The Pharisees still prophesied that the Messiah was going to come, deliver Israel, and rule the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you had these Rome. Now you understand why they wanted to kill Christ. You see what I'm saying? So they say, no, hell no. If we kill this man, we'll keep rulership forever, not him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they thought was the master plan, but that didn't work. Drop down. Let's read verse 15 or 13. I'm sorry, 13.
Con. This is Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. And
So
when
Herod
they,
was troubled. Read on.
and when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream,
Who was Joseph's father? Go ahead. I mean, who was
Saying-
Christ's father? Read on.
saying, arise and take the young child and his mother
Take Christ and Mary. Read.
and flee into Egypt,
Why?
and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
Do y'all see that? Now, what did the dragon prophesy to do? It stood before the woman to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that was who? Herod. Herod comes out of what nation? Rome. Rome is of what nationality? Esau, Edomites. You see that? So now notice that this whole dragon is being referenced as an Edomite nation.
Mm-hmm.
Rome is just one head of the dragon,
Right.
and there's 6 others.
Mm-hmm.
Greece, an Edomite nation, is another head of the dragon,
Mm-hmm.
and there's 5 others. You see what I mean? So technically, Esau, starting out as Greece, conquered. Then remember, Alexander divided his kingdom up. Then Rome took control.
Mm-hmm.
Rome divvied up and conquered areas and then took control of those areas and ruled from those locations. Here's an example. Did Esau always occupy America?
No.
But he does now.
Mm-hmm.
How so? Because he came in, he conquered it, and he planted headquarters and took control and rules out of America as one of his headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
He did the same with Spain. Infiltrated Spain, because remember, Spain is Tarshish,
Mm-hmm.
which was inhabited by the children of Japheth.
Mm-hmm.
But Esau went in, wiped them out. Same thing he did with the children of Javan, who were the original Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
Took them out and occupied that area and called it Grekoi or Greece. That wasn't the original name.
Mm.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Then they named it Greece
Mm.
and ruled from there. Then went into Spain and ruled from there. And went into the areas of France, which was the Gauls, and ruled from there.
Mm.
Then went into the areas which is known as Britain or Great Britain and ruled from there.
Mm-hmm.
Then conquered Germania or Germany, and then began to rule from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then later he went into Russia and began to rule from there. Y'all see how his kingdom is expanding?
Con.
So this is what John is seeing. So when it says that the dragon stood before the woman, it's doing the same thing right now. Who stood before the Aztecs and the Mayans to devour them?
Esau, the Caucasian.
Under the head of Spain
Yep.
and France
Yep.
and America.
Mm-hmm.
Who stood before the Native American Indians?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
same one, the same man.
Yep.
Who stood before the Israelites in 70 AD?
The same man. The
Who
same.
stood before the Israelites that fled from Israel into Africa to the Gold Coast and was brought as slaves? Who did that?
Same English man.
Same
Yep.
man. The English, the same heads.
Right.
The same heads, no
Mhm.
matter what.
Con.
Who's beating our people down in this? Why do we even have to have Black Lives Matter? Who's the culprit of that?
Mm-hmm.
The same
Same man.
people to devour her child as soon as it was born. That's why he said he cast the stars to the ground and cast them to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Revelations 12.
Thank you.
So it should be crystal clear who this man is.
Con.
God.
The only one that would stand before to devour Christ. Go ahead, King.
But remember, what did Esau say? What promise did Esau make after Isaac died? He said, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will slay my brother Jacob."
Mm-hmm.
Has he been trying?
Yeah.
All throughout history, he's been trying.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since he came into power and under the Greeks, he's tried. From Alexander to Antiochus, all the way on up to all the Caesars had a fair share of their affliction of the Jews at that time.
Gone.
Even to Herod. You see what I mean? And then even beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Even up till now, it's the same beast.
Same man. He's been doing the most killing since 333.
Man, that's his promise he made.
Since 333. Yeah. You can't argue that. The white
You
man
see
has
what I'm
killed more people than anybody. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Now he didn't took over nations, but he did us the worst.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? This is where our people got to look at. So back in Revelations 12, let's pick up at verse 5. So the dragon stood before the woman to devour a child as soon as he was born. We see that happened with Christ, and that also is happening with us today. Even if you go into Planned Parenthood, who's trying to devour our children before they're born? Through the abortions, through the poisoning of our family, or the poisoning of even our women's wombs.
Mm-hmm.
You see what's going on? So this has been a case since then. Nothing has changed. Read on.
Con, this is Revelations 12 and verse 5.
Uh-huh.
And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations.
See, that's what was the problem. Israel was to bring forth Christ, who was to rule all nations.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was prophesied for Christ, not for them. But remember, that went back to the prophecy where Isaac told him, it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion and break thy brother's yoke from thy neck.
My neck, yep.
Because we always kept Esau, and we had him always kept Esau in check.
Mm-hmm.
In the scriptures during the time of our kings, Esau was not a factor at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until the 3rd century that he became one.
Mm-hmm.
He tried in the time of Esther. Remember Haman?
Yep.
Right.
The Agagite?
Always with our enemy.
Haman the Agagite. Agag is a son of is a descendant of Amalek.
Mm-hmm.
Amalek is a descendant of who?
Esau.
Esau. He's always been at our throats. Always. But he got subdued. He got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't done. He keeps coming back and he keeps afflicting for centuries. He's been doing this.
You know what I was reading, and not to cut you off. You know what I was reading in Ezra's? And I'm reading First Ezra's right now, and I didn't know that when Babylon took us into captivity, Esau went into the temple and destroyed it.
Huh.
So when Babylon took us,
Mm-hmm.
Esau, after we was taken, he went into the temple and destroyed it during the time of Babylon. Yeah, so it's like he's always there antagonizing us.
Always. And that's a key thing, because that shows us. Remember, when you're dealing with the scriptures and the prophecies, it's dealing with two nations of people. It's dealing with Israel and their antagonist, which is their own brother Esau.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it says Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So one thing we know is that the Edomites have to be in power at the coming of Christ.
Yes.
So, and funny thing is, people keep having this mystery. Well, Esau's the Arabs, Esau's the Japhet. No, that's retarded. Because then, when did they ever rule the world? You see what I'm saying? When did the Arabs ever? The Arabs never controlled one continent.
Bring that out.
You understand what I'm saying? For those that want to trust and say that the Edomites are the Arabs, that's the foolish way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because Esau is prophesied to rule the world,
Mm-hmm.
not a place, not a province, but the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been only two nations that are prophesied. There's only been one nation of people that had control of the earth.
Mm.
Remember, the 4 kingdoms. Babylon had control of Asia Minor and the known world at that time.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of it. Persia had the known world and the extent of that portion of it. Then Greece had that. Rome expanded to the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why Rome, the 4th beast, is the only kingdom that's ruling at the time of Christ. When Christ is prophesied to return.
So-called New World. Yeah.
Right. So the Bible shows us Rome at its infant stage of of taking over Jerusalem, parts of Africa, Asia Minor, the whole Persian dynasty, all of that part of it, right? But when we read on, we see that Rome keeps expanding. Rome grows. Rome is a machine that keeps expanding. Then it grows 7 heads, and these 7 heads are different countries from which Rome power continues. You see what I'm saying? And check it out. So there's many, like I talked about it last time. Like you have other countries like Croatia, Yugoslavia, all these other places, Sweden, Norway, but they're controlled by the 7 heads.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Those are little Edomite kingdoms and all that, but those are the 10 horns that we read about. The powers that are underneath the 7 heads. All of this is dealing with the so-called white man's power that he was prophesied to have. Because if Esau was prophesied to have it, and if it's not now, when will it happen, or when did it happen? Right. That's the question they have to ask. But we see the results of it. The red dragon, who's in power, the red man.
Yep.
The same race of people that was Greece and Rome, that were Edomites then, are the same people. It's their children now that have power. Same thing, same situation. So let's read on. So she was to bring forth a man child who was to rule all nations. Go ahead.
And she was brought forward with a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And the child was caught up unto God into his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she have a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
So that's that 1,260 days that prophecy we went about over the prophecy of the coming of Christ. We did that lesson. We talked about this. Okay, that place where it will be nourished is where? Right here in America. This is where we would come, our last stopping place, where we will be afflicted, but we'll also receive the truth.
Right.
Look at our people waking up more than ever right now.
Man.
More than ever. Our people, like I said, when I came in the truth in 94, I told you guys before, it was rare to see another Israelite out in the street.
With friends, yeah.
Rare. Period. Not even with friends, just period.
Yeah. Con.
You know what I mean? But now you can't go anywhere without seeing an Israelite. That's the prophecy of how we would wake up in our captivity. Remember, it said in the land of our captivity, we will remember ourselves. So why are we remembering ourselves? To do what? To go back into slavery? No, to come out of bondage. We're repenting and remembering ourselves and learning to keep the commandments so that we could be found worthy to partake of the kingdom when Christ comes to get it. By taking out the kingdom and power, which is who? So-called white man. You see what I mean? So this is when we speak on these things, we're not just talking and see people think that's racism, the white man. This is prophecy. This is a fact. This is history. And you can't deny it. Who's controlling the earth?
The so-called white man.
It's without anybody thinks otherwise, they're foolish. Because how do we know that? Because the so-called white man controls the chief countries that control the world.
Yeah.
That's why it says, who's able to make war with the beast? Who's made war with the so-called white man and walked off prevailing? You see what I'm saying?
Ain't nobody about to make war with Esau.
Man, they cannot. They can't. Who's like unto the beast? Who's able to make war with them? Because if they could, and they try, they're trying to battle, but they getting checked. That's how it is. That's how the country sets up power. We showed you. Look up who has the strongest military in the world. United States. Without a doubt.
If you really think about it, Elder, like even with the war talk and all of that, if you really look at it, all it is Esau bullying the other nations, and the other nations kind of trying to stick up for themselves.
Right. That's it.
China, all that. Esau bullying China, pushing China to do stuff, and all. They not. Man, ain't nobody messing with this nation.
And that goes back into when we get into Revelation 17. So we see that John sees this beast, this red dragon that has 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, that's the Edomite nation at its fullest of power. That's what we see today. Okay.
Mhm.
We see the heads and how they've taken control of the earth, not just one area, but the earth. Their reaches. Who's controlling Europe?
Caucasian.
You see what I'm saying? So when you put Europe, who controls that? Who controls the Americas, period.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Who has the most real estate in Africa? Who's controlling that?
Caucasian.
You see what I mean? So when you look at the continents, the so-called white man has control of all of the continents. Like I mentioned, even including Antarctica. See what I'm saying?
We went to the remote place.
But he has control of that too.
Yeah.
Because they say, well, it's not really owned by anyone, but it's still controlled.
Even if you don't believe he went there or not, he's still saying he controlled the moon.
But but the scripture said he will. Remember, he said he will send into the heights of the clouds.
Yeah, yeah.
He will rest upon the stars. These are the things. Look at this. Look at his technology.
Mhm.
His airplanes, spaceships, satellites.
Right.
Look at the technology of the internet. We hear you 300 or 400 miles away from me, and we're talking in real time.
Mm-hmm.
You have people that's on the other side of the world in other countries on different time zones, but yet we can all get together and have a conversation. That's technology for your ass right there.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said that Satan gave him his power and great authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is what we're dealing with. So this is the dragon that has taken control of the world, which is the so-called white man, and has also afflict the children of Israel. Let's flip over to chapter 13.
I got you.
And let's read verse 1. So we're getting up to now. So now we see this beast with 7 heads, which is Rome, and which is the nation of Edom, and all its heads and the fullness of its power right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you combine the militaries of all of these heads, you have control of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Take the military of America alone, has the strongest military, but add the military of Russia, add the military of Germany, add the military of France and Spain and Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going against this man?
I don't know.
Because people will say, well, wait a minute, they speak different languages. They had war with each other, but isn't it the same with our people right now?
Mm-hmm.
Does not the Israelites speak different languages? Some of us speak English, some Spanish, some French. Are we not fighting each other in the streets and gang violence and drug violence and all of that? And racial, the northern Mexicans against the southern Mexicans, blacks against white, light skin against dark skin. The Dominicans hate the French, the Haitians hate the Dominican. It's the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yet, are we not the same nation of people?
Absolutely.
So when you look at Esau, even though you have Russians, Germans, Greeks, Americans, Spaniards, and all that, they're the same nation of people, just occupying different territories, may speak different languages, but they're the same race of people.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? That's how he maintains control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 13:1, let's pick up there.
Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
See, this is the same beast. It's not a different one. Now, in Revelations 12, it said it was a dragon. But this one, it just says it's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
So we still know it's the same beast that was talked about in Daniel, that was talked about in Ezra with the 12 feathers, that's talked about right here in Revelations, dealing with the beast of Esau. He's the beast. He's the nation that it's talking about. And the 7 heads are his power, the powers that he controls the world through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Coming out of the sea, meaning coming up from the nations. That's what it's talking about. Okay. It's not talking about a Loch Ness monster coming up out of the Pacific Ocean. Speaking about nations coming up out of a sea of people. Okay. Read on.
Elder, real quick, can you just touch it like a quick second? Somebody asked, what are the 10 horns?
The 10 horns, as I mentioned, are the sub panel, and which is known as the EEC, the European Economic Community. And those names, they change often, but that's your sub panel of rulership. That's also takes control underneath the 7 heads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's what that's talking about. Read on.
All right, so this is Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy.
See that? Now, why does it say the name of blasphemy? Because when you start, what is blasphemy? When you speak against the Most High.
Mhm.
What nation of people has spoke carelessly against the Most High out of all nations?
Only the Caucasian man.
Because he's the one that says there is no God.
Yep, the first nation to ever say that.
And he attributes everything to science.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? When that's foolish. Well, you know, there was a large explosion sometime billions of years ago when gas molecules accumulated and they heated up and they formed an explosion that brought forth everything we see. That's foolishness, because science, if that's the case, then they contradicted their own self. And I remember I used to teach brothers this a long time ago. When you even go into the laws of thermodynamics, their scientific laws tells you that you cannot get an explosion without heat, and there must be a source of that heat. So what was the source of the explosion? What caused it? Now that's their own laws and their own theories. You see what I'm saying? So just to eliminate, that's why the scripture tells you, it says the fool saith there is no God. You have to be a fool to have that mind state. If you take the human body alone, look at the complexity of it and the purpose. The whole world was created. It's called
Genesis, to sustain life.
Biogenesis, yeah, and it's also called the anthropic principle.
Anthropic principle, yeah.
Anthropic principle, which means that everything was created in a form to sustain life.
Yeah. Okay.
We have oxygen to breathe. We have to have food for fuel. We get our fuel from the earth. We have to have water to live. Like water comes from the heavens, it's produced from the elements. So there had to be something that had wisdom to know that this is what the human body would need to live. And this is what plants and animals would need to consume in order for them to live and reproduce. Because according to a Big Bang theory, that meant if I throw a big bunch of metal and some wood together and come back 1,000 years later, shouldn't I have a car and a house?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you should have all that.
But we know nothing's going to come out of that. What's falling is falling and it's not getting back up. You see what I'm saying? We didn't come from monkeys. We didn't come from rats. We weren't lizards a million years ago. None of that mess. The sun has always been the sun. Man has always been man. But through his blasphemy, he says that, well, no, this is what it is. And there's science and there's no God and God doesn't exist. God is a figment of a man. That's foolishness. That's the work of Satan. That's why I said his name, the head of blasphemy. Everything that Esau's geared to do is set to turn you away from the Most High. You see what I'm saying? The Most High tells you that to be gay or homosexual activity is an abomination to him. But what does he say? No. God will love you. You can bear, your little boy can wear a dress. Little girl can put on pants and be a boy or whatever. And you can use your pronouns and you can't limit a person. If they want to be a boy or girl today and another one tomorrow, then you have to give them that right. See, this is what it's coming to. But did not Rome do the same thing?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Look at the Caesars. All the paganism and the wickedness that they were dealing with is the same thing that's being dealt with right now. The same thing. So this is the blasphemy that he's doing. Who said that? Who even painted the image of Christ to be white?
That man.
You see what I'm saying?
A homosexual white man at that.
Man.
Caesar was, yeah.
Who lies and said that they are the Jews?
He did.
Y'all see what's going on?
Blasphemy.
So who else does this fit? Get Hebrews 12 and 16 real quick.
You got it.
You see what I'm saying? So the scriptures say what they say. This is the beast. But notice, all the heads take part in this activity. There's not one that's like, well, we don't do that. They all take part of it. From Greece to Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, Britain, America. They all take part, and they're the ones that's passing this to the world. Read what you got.
God, this is Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
Do y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, he said, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, meaning he's the worst. There's no one worse than him, because he forsook the birthright of the Most High for a piece of meat.
God.
That's what he thought of the Most High. He was like, I don't want that. Jacob, you can have it. Then he turned around and lied and said he stole it from me. Isn't that what he does? What he does now?
Yep.
False justice and all this other stuff. You see what I mean? This is his nature. Read on.
God, verse 17.
I'm sorry. Let's go back to Revelation. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Revelations chapter 13, verse 2.
Mhm.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard,
Uh-huh.
and his feet were as the feet of a bear.
So the leopard, remember, that was the same beast that goes back to Daniel chapter 7, which represented the Greek Empire. So it's showing you its inception of this beast, starting with Greece, the first Edomite kingdom to come into power. And then their power translated to the Romans. The Romans spread it to their 7 heads, and from there, they controlled the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the kingdom worked. Read on.
And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and
Strong. Read on.
and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
So now it says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now remember, when you go back to Matthew chapter 4, when Christ was being tempted by Satan, what did Christ say? He took him up to a high mountain and said, I have power over all this, over all these kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you power if you fall down and worship me.
Mm-hmm.
Christ said, you can keep all that. We only worship the Most High. That's who you should serve. He said, and not to mention, I'm going to get all that anyway.
Right.
So when we read Job 9:24, what does it say? The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Well, who's controlling the earth? Are they not wicked? Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who forsook the Most High for a piece of meat. That's an ultimate disrespect. He said, Lord, I don't care about what you got going on. I'd rather eat this meat. I don't care about the promises, righteousness, eternal life. I don't worry about none of that. Just give me that meat. See, that's a complete just dissing the Most High.
For meat, yeah.
But the dragon gave him his power. So now we understand why the agenda of the kingdoms, of these kingdoms, are always evil. Flip back over to chapter 12. Let's find out who the dragon really is.
Yeah, you got
Chapter 12, and let's read verse 9.
I got you because I'm there. Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. And the dragon, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan.
See, the dragon is who? The devil, Satan. So let's flip back over. So it said, and the dragon gave him his power. So that means that Esau's power and authority comes from who?
Satan.
Now we understand why he's always occupied in evil. The other nations have some type of spirituality to them. If you look at the Middle East, they have philosophy. They have some levels of righteousness in their society somewhat. If you look at going into China, Japan, they have some type of arts and meditation and things like that for their mind, and they have some morals intact. Not all, but some. Now you look at his kingdom. What does he have? None.
No morals.
None. You see what I'm saying? None. That's why I said he has wears the head of blasphemy, going constantly against the Most High, lying against the Most High, going against the Most High's children, which are the children of Israel, destroying them. Then he turns around and tries to claim their history by calling themselves Jewish. That's why Christ says in Revelation 2:9, I know them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of who?
Of Satan.
of Satan, because who's giving him his power? See how the scriptures line up precept upon precept?
Mm-hmm.
You can't get away from that. Read on.
It says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
So now great authority means you have a great level of rulership and power over people.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't say a little authority, great authority.
Mm-hmm.
That great authority is what? Ruling the world.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we read in Obadiah where it said, although I make thy net, he said, Esau makes his nest upon the stars, and from thence will I bring thee down.
Mm.
Showing you that Esau, obviously, in order for him to be brought down, he has to be high. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Who's higher than him right now?
Nobody.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Esau was not in power, how would he be brought down?
Right.
For those that want to say Esau's not the so-called white man. Read on.
Verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death.
Now we went over that with remember the 1,000 years. When did one of his heads was wounded to death, as it though it was, remember, what crippled Rome? When they got invaded by Germanic tribes in 472. That's what plummeted the Roman Empire at that time. That's when it fell.
Mm-hmm.
It tried to stay alive a little bit through the Byzantine and what have you, but eventually it all crumbled. As it were wounded to death, meaning that it had a wound and as though to the point of where it would never come back alive. But what happened? Read.
It says, and his deadly wound was healed.
When was it healed? 1,000 years later, when they reemerged under the Renaissance. And that's when they went right back to lying. And because remember, for that 1,000 years, when Esau wasn't ruling at that point, the Bible was being put together. Remember we went over that?
Yes.
You had the translations coming about, all the different texts that were being discovered and being written. And you had all these different, Christianity for 1,000 years was the main religion.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible was being put, whereas in Rome, ancient Rome, you couldn't be caught with the word. Remember, you were locked up for speaking in the name of Christ. Why was John even put on the island of, watch this, flip a whole thing, go to Revelation chapter 1.
You got it? Okay, God. And that's mighty. You got it.
And let's read verse I want to read verse 9.
This is Revelations chapter 1 and verse 9. I, John, who also am your brother and companion in tribulation and in the kingdom and patience of Jesus Christ, was in the isle that is called Patmos.
So Patmos was an island that people that the Romans would put criminals there. Okay, it was an island prison, similar to like what Alcatraz is or was when it was open. Okay, read on.
For the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ.
See, he got put on the island to serve time for what? Speaking in the name of Christ. Romans wasn't having that. But remember, Constantine in the 3rd century AD made Christianity the law, or made it law, that was the religion that was to be followed, along with the Bible. And that's how we're able to get the translation, get the Bible, how the Bible is being passed down to where we're able to have it now. Because it had it been left up to the Romans in that fashion, we wouldn't have it today.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? When 1,000 years was fulfilled, when that wound was healed, he went back out deceiving. That's how you get the Protestants and all them going against the Bible again. You see how it works?
Yep.
And now trying to burn it, took the Apocrypha out.
Yep.
Trying to do all that they can do to get rid of the word, because that's Esau's nature. That lest there be any fornicate or profane person is Esau. Remember, he doesn't want the word of the Most High. He wants that meat. He wants wealth. He wants greed. He does not want anything to do with righteousness. So once his wound was healed, he started to come back into power. What happened? The Catholics, the Pope, the Jesuit priests, all that start setting up all these orders and divisions and went out to conquer and start conquering the Americas. And that's how our brothers got subdued. The
Con.
10 tribes got subdued by the head. It reemerged and started going out to do the same thing it was doing before.
Con.
You understand? So its deadly wound was healed. Read on. Let's go back to Revelations 13.
Revelations chapter 13, verse 3. And I
Uh-huh.
saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed.
Now watch this. Read.
And all the world wondered after the beast.
See that? Now that is it was healed, and now his power, because remember at that time the seven heads were in infantile stages.
Mm-hmm.
They were conquered by Rome, and they had rulers put in these places, but they weren't doing too much. But over the years, they started to grow. Now they're starting to put in this major work. Okay, so the whole world started to wonder after the beast, looking like, man, who the heck is this? How does he get this power? How is he getting this technology? How is he just going into just kingdoms and just taking them over like that? Yep. How is he subduing warriors? Think about it. How the heck do you send a crew of people, not many, from Europe to the Americas to come here and subdue a whole nation and kingdom and civilization of natural warriors?
Man.
The Aztecs, the Mayans. Look at the Indian tribes.
The Indian tribes, yeah, they took them down.
If you look at the Cherokee, the Seminoles.
What's the Edomite name that took down the Aztecs? Cortez.
Which one? Cortez, Pizarro. Hernan. You had a few. Columbus.
Hernan Cortez. Yeah.
Yeah. You had a few of them.
Yep.
And they went under the banner of Spain. So now it's no coincidence why our Latino brothers speak Spanish, because that's one of the heads that conquered.
Mm-hmm.
See how it works?
Mm-hmm.
We speak English. Why? Because that's the head, England. That's one of the heads that conquered us.
Mm-hmm.
Some speak French. That's one of the heads that conquered. The same is went out to conquer, to do the same thing it was doing then. Still before the woman to devour her children.
And the whole world has to learn English.
Man, you see that?
The whole world has to learn English, as at least English as their second language. Go anywhere. Go to China. They gotta speak some type of English.
That's it.
Middle East gotta speak some type of English
if they want to excel.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
Yep.
So the whole world worship after the beast. Go ahead. Verse 4.
It says Salakia. And
13
4. And they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Do y'all see that? The whole world wondered after the beast. That means this beast has power. They're thinking like, how in the hell did he just come up like that? And how are we going to take this beast out of power? They're trying a little bit, but they get subdued. Mm-hmm. Who's able to make war? I mean, who's able to conquer him? He's not conquerable. But guess what? That's why it's going to take one strong man to subdue him. Y'all know who that is, right?
Gotta be Hawashai.
That's it. What did he say? He's coming with the clouds of heaven. He's coming with his angelic vehicles and weaponry. Because Esau don't fight with bullets and arrows and all that no more.
No.
He's on another level. He's on a whole nother level right now. You see what I mean? Read on.
Verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
So that's that 42 months again at 3.5. We talked about that in the prophecy regarding the end times with the coming of Christ. Mm-hmm. So we can go over that. So this is showing you how this dragon, this beast Esau, is controlled by Satan, that morphed and grew into a kingdom having 7 heads and 10 horns. That's controlling the entire world, that no one can go against, that no one can fight against, that no one has the power to subdue. You see what I mean? No one has the power to subdue. You see, so that's where why it's important for us to get on the Most High's page, because when he comes out of power, a lot of our people are joining forces with this man.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? Hold that. Let's go to the book of Isaiah.
Got it.
That's why the Most High said he in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves, because we have to remember where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
And the warrior, our forefathers and the warrior blood that's in us. That's why all of our feast days commemorate the fall of our enemies. Y'all notice that, right? The Passover commemorates what? Our deliverance from Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that this is modern Egypt. The scriptures tell us this is spiritual Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
So when Deuteronomy 28:68 said, you shall go into Egypt again with ships, it's speaking of this one.
Yeah.
That's why Revelations 11 says, and their dead bodies shall lay in the streets, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
That's this place right here. Where did the ships go?
Mm.
Who was bought and where were we bought and sold as slaves at?
This place right here.
Where are we being afflicted at?
This place right here.
See what I'm saying? So all of that, that's prophecy. That's leading us. So you see how the beast had to come forth. Then the rest of the prophecies around Israel started to unfold after his deadly wound was healed.
Mm-hmm.
So in that 14th century, we see that the heads now went out to start subduing our Hispanic brothers,
mm-hmm.
our Native American Indian brothers and sisters. They start subduing them under those heads. Then you had the remaining tribes that fled out of Israel in 70 AD into Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? You had the English, Britain, what have you, that financed that went in and took those Israelites from the coast of Africa into America now.
Yep.
You see? So now we see how we reunited with the heads again so that they can continue to afflict us.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time as fulfilling prophecy. Most High is beautiful, isn't he?
Man.
You see what I mean? And every time frame is accounted for.
Yeah.
Remember, we went back to Babylon, the 5th century. Babylon had power in the 5th century BC.
Mm-hmm.
Through the Persians, through Greece, through Rome. Rome brought us into 472 AD when they fell. Then the deadly wound was healed 1,000 years later in the 14th century, which was the Renaissance, or the 15th century rather.
Mm-hmm.
From there, even America started to be born.
The
You see
extension.
how it's unfolding? And now we're in that all through that affliction stemming up from those 1400s through the 1600s, even up to now, 2023.
Right here. Yep.
Not one time frame is missing out of that.
Mm.
Y'all see how it goes? So now that gives us the hope to see how the Most High is showing you, look, I got a timeline for you. You know around the time when your deliverance should appear. Remember, the day and time knoweth no man, but he's given us these prophecies of what's going to happen. He says, rest assured, you will see this coming of Christ will be at the time where Esau's kingdom is at its highest.
At its highest, yeah.
Now, how much you think he could get any higher than he is? Now it's time for him to start coming down.
Down, yeah.
That's why his kingdom is falling apart. That's why so much chaos. Y'all see that? And that's why Christ said, any kingdom divided against itself is what? Brought to desolation.
Doesn't Daniel talks about that with the clay, with the image?
Exactly. That's right. And it said that there's some great strivings and all of that. This is what's happening.
Yep.
You see? And why his kingdom is starting to weaken and crumble, because look, I think you brought it up in the last class, how the dollar is getting weaker.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The financial structure is starting to weaken.
Mm-hmm.
Not just here, but just in other places too.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So now when his kingdom is starting to diminish, but look at what's happening in Israel. We're multiplying. We're waking up. Our kingdom is growing now.
Yeah, yeah.
All we got to do is get off the BS and get in order.
That's it.
You see what I'm saying? Quit all the division and all the little tribalism that our people are doing and hating on each other and learn to link up, because that's what Christ is putting in. Christ, we got to be on his page.
Mm-hmm.
Christ's not playing games. He's saying, look, if you ain't on my page, you got to move out the way.
Mm-hmm.
But let's read that. Let me read that in Isaiah real quick about why our people have to lock in. Get Isaiah chapter 13 and 15.
Con, this is
13, 15.
Con, this is Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 15.
Uh-huh.
Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword.
See, everyone that is found, meaning without the knowledge of the Most High, that's not in line with what the scriptures is saying, shall be thrust through with the sword. And if we choose to join ourselves to these powers, now, you know, we go to work, we got to do what we do, but what? Our mind state should not be locked in.
Right.
That's why I said those that use this world, not abusing it.
Yep, Revelation.
I don't mean you got to sell everything and walk the earth and be homeless. That's not what the Most High is saying.
He said,
people like, yeah, you got to leave America and we got to go into the wilderness. We got to go find into the and look for the bottomless pit and all kind of people with stuff. Man, the Most High is not saying that. Israel's going to be delivered from the four corners of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it said we shall be taken up and their enemies beheld them. So our enemies we're going to be taken up and delivered in the midst of our enemies like it always has been.
Mm.
When we left Egypt, did the Egyptians see us leave?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? After they got whooped, the Most High put the plagues on them. They saw us leave. And they were so happy. Go serve your God. Matter of fact, can some of us even go with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what they're going to do again. You see what I mean? When we got delivered with the time of the Greeks and the Maccabees stood up, we saw our deliverance. And we're going to see this one too. We ain't got to run no more, run from somewhere. No, the Most High is going to strengthen us up. We're going to be an exceeding great army no matter where we are, taking down the heads. Remember, America's only one head. There's 6 others, actually 7 others, because America's the 8th head.
Mm. Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
And guess what? Our people are scattered in all those heads in all those locations. Planted throughout, and that's a strategy the Most High put, because when we're waking up, we're already there to start taking over. You see what's going on? We're all over. Our people are all throughout North, South, Central America, and the islands. We're in Spain, we're in Russia, we're in Germany, we're in France, we're in Britain. We're all over the place, and we're waking up in those locations. Power. So that's why when it says we're going to take control, we're not taking it just out of America. We're taking world power. We're taking all their heads down, which makes us the new head.
Mm-hmm.
That's why everything is set up the way it is. So all the heads get subdued, and guess what? Who takes control over the places that those heads occupy?
We do.
Christ and the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
See? So we can't be joined to them. We got to be locked into what the Most High has us doing. Let's do back to so from there we talked in Revelations 13. Let's jump to Revelation 17.
I got you.
So now let's bring it up to America, because now we saw the 7 heads. Now America's going to talk about now we see the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Now Revelation 17 shows us how America came on the scene now. So remember, John is seeing all this when he's in prison. He's getting these visions and writing them down so that we can have them today. We're going to pick up Revelation 17 and 1.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters.
See, now that's talking about America. America's the great whore. When it says sitteth upon many waters, what does it mean? What does waters represent? Kingdoms, nations. You understand?
God.
Okay. So let's and you can even, so when we see that, it says that sitteth upon many waters. Read on, read verse 2.
Verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
So that means that, remember, we already read that this kingdom will have blasphemies. It will be evil. But then there's going to be one that's going to be more evil than all the other heads. Okay? So that's why it's making reference as this is the great whore. Now, what does a whore do?
Entice.
Entice. What else?
Yeah.
so we could get understanding of what this kingdom is.
They sleep around.
Sleep around,
Communication.
sell their body,
Yeah.
promote promiscuity.
Yeah. Provocative.
You see what I'm saying? So everything that, when you look at the countries that's promoting that on the world scale or a great scale, who's that?
The West.
The West,
U.S.
Esau.
all day long.
Yep.
So now, but in America is putting so much freedom to where other nations are influenced, where they want to come and partake. That's why I said have made all the nations drunk with the wine of his fornication.
We say it all the time. It was like democracy, like going into the rest of the world, trying to make everybody accept that democracy, freedom.
Exactly. And not only that, but then you have the nations that did have some type of morality to them. They come to America, and what happens to them? They come to America to what? Achieve.
Yep.
Be it education, be it jobs, because they'll tell you. It's funny when I see people from other countries always asking, what made you want to come to America? It's like, man, it's better here. It's like something, they tell you some things I don't like I like the peace in my country and other that, but it's very poor. You can't do much. It's like they come here to achieve, to become wealthy, to succeed. That's what America has painted for a lot of people. The whole beast in the whole beast in general. But America, where's Hollywood? With the music business, show business, all of that, anything, the best schools, all of that is dealing with America. Europe, Britain, and all of that is extension of America, comes from out of Britain.
Yep. You got a term Americanized. You don't go to Asia and get Asianized. You don't go to Arabia and get Arabianized.
You
get Americanized. You come here, the next generation is done through. Your next generation of kids is done for the people that wasn't born here and moved here.
Man, it's crazy. This is how we start to see the growth of what happens. Let's continue.
Verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Is this the same beast?
Khan.
So it's showing you that this whore is still a part of that main nation, 7 heads and 10 horns, which is the Edomite nation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's flip over. Let's read Revelations chapter 18. Let's read verse 1. Watch this.
Revelation chapter 18, verse 1. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and every and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
See that? So now it's likening this kingdom to Babylon. So when you go and look up Babylon and its history, a lot of the paganism, the wickedness that's practiced here, even in America, stems from Babylon. Christmas, Easter worship, all of those things that you look, idol worship, a lot of those instances America deals with. So when we see that, because now when you look at it, somebody might say, well, how it's talking about America, blah, blah, blah. Well, put it under the microscope. Put every kingdom under the microscope, and let's find the most wicked one. Well, what country is all nations trying to get to?
America.
You see that?
God.
So when you look at that, and you have to ask yourself, why? Again, to succeed, to come get better, to come partake in the wealth. Because a lot of the things that you could do in America, they can't do in their countries. You see what I mean? Like the lifestyles that they want to live and being, homosexual or things like that, and drug addicts and all of that other stuff. pornography and all that. They can't do, a lot of the countries, they don't allow that.
Nah.
A lot of them, they'll bring them out in the middle of the street, whoop them and chastise them, put them to death. They don't play that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of countries is like, if it's a Muslim country, you better not be professing another doctrine there.
Mm-mm.
But in America, you can profess whatever you want. You could be an atheist, you could be a Christian, you could be a Jew, you could be a Baha'i faith, Buddhist, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witness, or whatever witness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be whatever you choose to be, and there's no discrimination. And matter of fact, they make laws to say you cannot discriminate these people.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you now make protection against the evil?
Protecting the evil. Yep.
You see what I'm saying? That's why I said, who frameth mischief by a law.
Mm-hmm.
If you speak up against someone's lifestyle, that's harassment.
Yep. You can't do it.
You can lose your job if you say something to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. They have more rights than you do.
Mm-hmm.
They have more rights as being abominable to the Most High than you do being an Israelite. Isn't that something?
Well, you can be. The funny thing about it is, Elder, in 2023, you can profess to be anything. You could be a dog, a cat.
Mm-hmm.
A grown man could be a 5-year-old girl. The only thing you can't be in America is an Israelite.
Yeah.
The only thing you can't be in America is a Jew.
Crazy.
Us, though. We could be everything else. But why can't I identify as a Jew? I just identify as a, hey, you're non-binary. I'm a Jew.
Right. You're not a Jew. You're not German.
That's crazy.
But those are the lies. You know what I mean? We said the dragon who went out and deceived the whole world.
Right.
But this is now we're seeing how it's grown. And now we're dealing with this head. And now we see that it's at one in this particular passage is speaking of it as the whore.
Mm-hmm.
Because all nations are flocking to it. It's just like, put it this way, like you had a woman that's just giving herself away. You have all these men running around. I'm gonna give me a piece. I want some too.
Yeah.
Lining up. So that's how the nations are lining up. How are they lining up? Because they're going into these consulates to become citizens and to get passes to come to this country.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not coming here to live, they're coming in here out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
To see, is it really that free? Is it really what we see on TV? Is it really, do these things really happen?
Mm-hmm.
Are the Kardashians really there? I mean, this is what people are coming to look at.
Yep.
And 98% of the time is for nothing. Foolishness. But the wealth, you can have these things, you can have a alternative lifestyle or whatever, and you can't be judged for it, as other countries do.
Mm-hmm.
So all nations are flocking and they're coming and they come here to learn. And in their process of learning, they get corrupted. They get corrupted with that westernized thought.
Yep.
You see? So this is how when it says they lay and they become drunken with the wine of fornication. So it's like when you slip someone a drink and now their vision is cloudy and they can't see and they pass out. Mm-hmm. And then someone had the perpetrator has his way with the person when they're passed out. That's what happens when you come to America, because the citizens are already passed out. Mm. That's why the Most High tells us to at this. He's going to say, "Come out of her," meaning come out of that mind state of what's going on in America. Let's read on. Watch this.
You want 17 or 18 still?
18 verse 3. Okay.
Revelation chapter 18 verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
All nations have partaken. Read on.
And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her.
And all kings, because and the reason why I'm speaking of the kings, because they make leagues with America. You see, because why do they make leagues with America? Is because America has the strongest trading system in the world. Mm. So when China makes products and they have to get in bed with America to have their products shipped for its citizens to buy them.
Yep.
You see what I mean? So if you look at Mercedes, right? Mercedes, BMW, these cars, these foreign cars, are sold more in America than in their own countries.
Anywhere. Yep. Anywhere else.
So when America says, if you do something that America doesn't like, they'll say, well, then I tell you what, unless you do what we're asking you to do, you can't send any of your imports here. We're shutting you down. It's called a tariff.
Mm-hmm.
Then these countries, what happened? It messes up their economic system.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to, they're put in a situation like, damn, that's like their biggest client. America's their biggest client. If they shut it down,
Yep.
it's going to impact their economy. And America knows that. That's why they play and like you mentioned, they bully everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let us get that. Let us put our men. Now, notice this. You take the U.S. military, they have stations in every country.
Yep, a garrison. Yep.
You see that?
Yep.
Oh, you want to trade? I tell you what. Let us set up a base in your country.
Mm.
Well, wait a minute. But what happens if there's a war between? Hey, it is what it is. Think about it. We rival gangs, but you let me operate in your neighborhood.
Yeah. You let me.
What's the point? You see what I mean? You let me set up a shop in your neighborhood. What kind of mess is that?
Right.
You see what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's their diplomacy to say, look, we can get along as long as you do as I'm asking you to do. And so this is how the nations lock in with America. Okay? Because they need America, the technology. Remember, a lot of these nations that aren't as wealthy, that are kind of poor, they get weapons from America.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So you have the military selling them. That's what all that Oliver North and all that stuff, that scandal went on where they were selling arms, illegal arms to other countries.
Nicaragua. Yep.
Even that with the whole crack thing that went on. You see what I'm saying? Hey, man, America's notorious for that. But they have to ship it here because who does the most dope?
Mm-hmm.
The citizens and the inhabitants of America.
Yeah.
You see, read on.
It says and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
See that? Everything that the nations become wealthy dealing with America. Out of all the kingdoms that exist, America is their biggest chief client because America is a consumer society. We spend more than we should. Whereas other countries are more frugal. They don't have that. They're not taught to be greedy and things like how America's taught. We're taught to have every new shoe, every piece of jewelry, every different car, every different type of house. That's why everything you turn on is all these home makeover shows to show you're living like this, but you should be living like this.
Right.
Success is this. Success is having this type of vehicle, having this type of home, having this degree. So when the countries are saying, well, damn, in order for me to be well, I have to go over there and get this degree. Mm-hmm. So you have foreign exchange students that come to the schools to learn. And again, in the process, they get corrupted. They start getting that philosophy and that mind state. And then they take it back to their country and then they corrupt even further.
Yep.
Read on.
Verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. So
that's showing you that the Israelites is a lot of them are where? In America. He's saying, come out of her. Don't be partakers of her sins. That's why a lot of our people get caught up because they follow an American dream.
Mm-hmm.
Right. See, that's why people are caught up in the Sabbath is hard for a lot of our people because they caught up in the paper chase. They're figuring, man, well, if I do this, I'm gonna miss this money, and it's gonna impact my job, and blah 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 blah. See, because of the possessions that people are afraid to lose,
right? That
America gives. See, and America's gotten slick now. That's why they have all these employment laws and so-called affirmative action and all of these things to make it fair. But no, all they're doing is they started to read the Bible and they're following the laws that we were to keep.
Mm-hmm.
of how to treat a servant. It said you should not, if you have a servant and he wants to serve you, then you shouldn't afflict him.
Mhm.
We went over that before. That's why the scripture says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite.
Yep.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian. It doesn't mean, oh, see, don't talk bad about him because it says thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. It's talking about during servitude. If an Edomite wants to serve you, why you got to beat him up?
Right. It don't make sense.
He's telling you, hey, I want to be your servant. Then let him be. Because you were a servant at one point. Did you like to be slapped around and lynched and hung?
Nope.
Because when you went to sleep, what were you thinking about? Man, I can't wait till master go to sleep so I could slit his throat.
Yep.
That's where the rebellions came from. So the Most High is showing you, if you get these other nations as your servants, deal with them uprightly and they'll love you rather than want to kill you.
Mhm.
That's wisdom. It has nothing to do with you Edomite and don't care, you can't speak bad about him and all that. No, that's not what that's talking about.
Mhm.
And then the scripture already disannulled that because it said, show favor to the wicked, he will still not learn righteousness.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's been shown so much favor and he's still wicked, he's still unfair.
Right.
So he's got to go. That's why Christ said, that's it. No more mercy. He's got to go. But that's how the Most High is showing us, and Esau picked up on that. So now he'll give you a raise at work.
Yep.
You see the mentality now of our people?
He learned from Rome too, because
Man.
Rome had a lot of infighting
Right.
and with the gladiators and all of that and oppressing the people.
Yeah.
And so him being the extension of Rome, he learned that. Like, I don't want to afflict them too much. Give them some type of feeling of leeway. They'll serve you longer.
That's it. Because when during slavery and the lynching and all the Willie Lynch mess, we were ready to fight. We were ready to kill. You know what I mean? But now our people go in, went in with guns and came out with jobs. You know what I mean? Our people don't even want to leave. You see what I'm saying? It's like, hey, man, let's the scriptures show us we about to get ready to arm ourselves and bounce. America's about to come back now. Man, America's good, man. I got my family, I got my job, man. I got my career going now, man. I got my master's and I'm all set. Don't mess it up now.
Yeah.
See, that's how our people are thinking. A lot of our people are thinking now. But the Most High is saying that this nation has caused all nations to just be corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the leader of wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? So when it says, have all nations have drunk of the wrath of the wine of her fornication, it's showing you that the whore in Revelation 17 is the same kingdom known as Babylon the Great or America. Okay, so let's go back to Revelation 17 and let's pick up.
Verse 4. I'll start at verse 3 again.
Okay.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
So we showed about the blasphemy, the same beast, 7 heads, 10 horns. This is the Edomite nation and all its heads and its power ruling the world. Read on.
Verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
See, so why is it arrayed in this? Here's this woman that has all this wealth, fame, glory. That's what America has to offer. But in that cup that she's passing out, you get corrupted. They're going to slip you one of them drinks that's going to cause you to pass out, and then everybody's going to have their way with you.
Yep, that roof. Yep.
That roofie.
What is that? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's what America's giving. You know, everything, whatever you want to do, you can come to America and do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you love your monkey and you want to have a relation with your monkey, you can do it in America. It's fine. You want to, you know what I mean?
Marry a dog. Yep. It says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great.
So showing you that the whore that's sitting on this nation or that's riding on this beast is the same one we read in Revelations 18, which is still a part of the Edomite kingdom that has 7 heads and 10 horns. The same nation. Read on.
It says, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
So you look at the abominations. What's abomination to the Most High? A man dressing like a woman, right?
Yep.
What country promotes that the most?
America.
A woman dressing like a man is an abomination. It tells you that in Deuteronomy. It's 22, right? Deuteronomy 22.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, 22. Yeah.
So it said, a man shall not put on a woman's garment, and a woman shall not wear that which pertaineth to a man. All that do such are an abomination to the Most High. But yet that's glamorized and that's promoted. Every movie you see now has to have that. Do you notice that?
Yeah, it's a contract. Yep.
And it doesn't even call for it, but it's there.
And they
They have to have it. That's the programming part. That's the cup they're giving to everyone. So now you become desensitized. So when you see it, it's nothing. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written. I already read this one. Verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints.
Now stop right there. I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Who's the saints?
Israel.
Israel all day. Psalms 50:5 tells you that. So how is the woman, America, drunk with the saints? Man, you look at the blood spilled of the Israelites on this soil, North, South, Central America. Look what happened to our Latino brothers. Look what happened to the Native American Indians. Look what happened to the so-called Negroes. And still happening. They shed so much blood that it says she's drunk with the blood.
The water is too. All our ancestors thrown off the slave ships.
Man.
The ocean.
Man. Drunk with the blood of the saints. Read on.
It says, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua.
Those that stand up for Christ was also killed and put to death. Read on.
And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
Because John is seeing this vision. He's like, man, what kind of kingdom is this? Because at the time he saw Rome, but he only saw Rome in its early stages in like the 1st century AD. It was powerful, but it was nowhere in comparison to the kingdom he was seeing. He's like, damn, is there even a kingdom can be this powerful? What kingdom? He said Babylon was powerful. Persia was more powerful. Greece was more powerful. And Rome was more powerful. What the hell kingdom could be more powerful than Rome? And he's seeing it. So he's like, man, this is crazy. Read on.
It says, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua, and when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which have the 7 heads and 10 horns.
So now we're going to get understanding. It says the woman that's being carried by this beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns. So the woman riding on this beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is a part of that kingdom, but it's still of that nation. Y'all see it? And now he says, I'm going to give you the understanding. So now he's going to break it down. Read on.
Okay. And it says, verse 8. So like it, he's small. The beast that thou sawest was and is not. And
Stop right there. The beast that thou sawest was and is not. Meaning it was because it was part of Rome, but it had not come up yet in John's time. So that's why it says it was and it is not. So does that make sense?
Yes.
It was John seeing it.
And it's not.
In the vision, but it had not come up on the earth yet. It wasn't time for it to appear yet. But John is seeing it and he's writing about it so that when we get it, it's historical.
So let me ask you this question, because John is during the time of Rome, right?
Right.
So when it says and it was and is not, could that also be because it's an extension of Rome?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's saying.
Oh, okay, okay.
So he's seeing Rome, a kingdom that's going to come up in similarity to Rome.
Yeah.
But it was not yet time. At that time, it had not yet appeared. America did not come until the 1700s. That's when it was actually launched as a nation. I mean, it was forming before that, but it was actually separated from Britain in 1776. That's when our people foolishly want to light fireworks thinking that they free and whatever. It has nothing to do with slavery.
Right.
It has to do with the independence of America from Britain. You see what I mean? So this is so when John sees it, he sees it as Rome, but it was not at its form of America at that time.
Mhm.
Now watch this, read.
And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit.
Now remember, going back to the 1,000-year lesson, bottomless pit is what? Europe.
Came out, and then
And
America.
this piece is coming out of the bottomless pit, Europe. Why? Because America comes out of one of the heads, which is what? Great Britain.
Mhm.
America stems from that. It's coming from that same source. That makes it part of the same beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Watch this. Read on.
And go into perdition,
And it's going into destruction as prophesied. Read on.
and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose
Uh-huh.
names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. When they behold the
Listen to
beast.
this. So it says, and they on the earth will wonder, meaning they're going to be confused because their name is not written in the book of life. What does that mean? That if your name isn't written in the book of life, that means that you've lived a life of what? Wickedness and evil. You were not repentant and you did not come to the Most High. So you're never going to know who that is. You follow?
Yep.
So, but notice he said, those on the earth who will wonder when they behold the beast. Watch this, read.
When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
Now that sounds confusing, right?
Right.
It says, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. How is that? It was what? As Rome.
Rome.
It had not happened, but yet it is, because why? It's still the same nation.
Yes. Mhm.
Let me say it again, just in case somebody got confused.
Yeah.
When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is, meaning it was when John saw it as Rome, the Edomite nation is Rome. He saw one of the heads, but however, it was not America yet.
Mhm.
But yet it was, because it's the same ancestry of people.
Mhm.
But
Makes
now we see it in what? Its larger form. It's still the descendants of those people in Rome.
Mhm.
You understand?
Come.
Now watch this. Read on. Verse 9.
Verse 9. And here is the mind which have wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
So those are the 7 heads, meaning 7 kingdoms. 7 mountains represent kingdoms. Okay. Like the mountain of the Lord is what? Zion.
Yep.
That's our kingdom. That's rulership. Okay. So the 7 heads, I'm going to say it again, was Greece, Rome. Then you had Spain, France, Germany, Russia, and Great Britain.
Mhm.
Okay. Now watch this. Read on.
Verse 10. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is.
Now, John is seeing how these kings are eventually going to lose power. Okay. Now, they're not going to be fully out of power, but they're not going to be as strong as in their inception of their heyday. Okay. So when it says 5, there's 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. So the kingdoms that he saw that fell were what? That were conquered by Rome was first Greece.
Yep.
He saw Spain. He saw Rome. Excuse me. He saw Greece, Spain, France, Germany, and Britain. All of these were already conquered by Romans. Russia had not yet come up. That's why I said, and one is 5 are fallen, and 1 is, which was Rome at the time. Read on.
Salakia. Verse 10. Actually, no. 9.
Verse 10. Let's read verse 10 again.
10. And there are 7 kings.
Okay.
5 are fallen.
Let me say it again. 7 kings. 5 of them have fell to Roman power, which was Greece, Spain, France, Germany, and Great Britain. Okay. Now watch this. 5 are fallen. Read.
5 are fallen, and 1 is.
1 is, because what kingdom was ruling at that time of the 7 heads? Rome.
Rome. Yes.
So Rome was existing at that time. John is seeing this vision. Read on.
And the other is not yet come.
Russia had not yet come yet.
Mhm.
Okay. Rome did not go in and conquer Russia at that time.
Mhm.
But Russia would eventually later in future gain power. But it's going to be a part of the 7 heads, but not at this time. That's why I said the other is not yet come. Read on.
And when he cometh, he must continue a short space.
He's going to rule also with the 7 heads and be a part of the rulership of that Edomite empire. Read on. Now
And
watch this.
And the beast that was and is not.
Now the beast that was and is not. Remember, that was the one that we saw that was resembling Rome, but it was not yet come up. That is what? Read.
even he is the eighth.
He is the eighth. That's America. Because watch this. He's the eighth. Read.
And is of the seven.
Why? Because he comes out of one of the seven heads, Great Britain. So you see, so now you see how the beast started out. Rome.
8 heads.
Rome expanded, had 7 heads. Then there was another one that came up out of one of the heads, Britain, and became an 8th head. And that was the one that was, and that is the woman. That's the great whore. That's Babylon the Great. No other than America. And America is of the 7 because it originally came forth from Great Britain. Y'all see that? Is it making sense? This is nothing but history. You can read this in your textbooks in school.
Yeah.
Do they even still teach history, world, U.S. history?
I don't know what they do now.
I know stuff like this in our history class. We learn this stuff. This is basic history.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to read and learn about the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and all these things. Then you see how France and Spain and how they started to all come. That's how America came about. And how the America began and started out with the colonizations of the Spanish and the French. So when you start to look at these wars and how these things were going on, this is how America was formulating itself to be the power that it was and to get this power. So it said, even he is the 8th, read.
And is of the 7.
Because he came out of Britain, one of the heads, read.
And goeth into perdition.
And he's going into perdition too, meaning going into destruction. Read on.
Yeah, and family, we're at Revelations 18 and 12 now. We read 1 all the way to 12. So this is Revelation chapter 18, verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet.
And I showed you that. Remember, that was the EEC that is talking about, is that sub panel. Okay, Belgium, Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, those particular countries that are also sub-rulers under the 7 heads. Okay. They said, but they received no kingdom as yet because they hadn't come up yet. Read on.
But receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
Now, it's not a literal hour, meaning for a short time, because when did they started to come about? In like the 18th century, in around the 1800s.
Yep.
So when you look at France, Spain, and all that, they didn't get their power until the 1800s. Now they were conquered by Rome, but they weren't powers, and they didn't get their power as you see it now until we actually came to America.
Yeah.
Then that's when their head really started to flourish. Because remember, what made them rich? Slavery.
Yeah, slave labor.
So when you go into what made England catapult into that wealth? Slavery. What made the French and Spanish? Because when they went in and invaded the Caribbean and invaded South and Central America and started colonizing, that's what got them wealth.
Right.
And then with wealth comes what? Power. With power and money comes military. With military comes strength. That's how they grew. You see what's going on? And so then America also thrived off of slavery. And that's how America got its startup. That was the startup funds of America. Was slavery and atrocities. They were able to get free labor so that they can build it. Now imagine if you build in a kingdom and you don't have to pay your workers.
Free labor.
You put that money into what? Building up your military.
For 200 years, yeah.
See, that's economics. That's common sense. That's common nation building. If I don't have to pay my workers, then I'm gonna put that money into the military system. So then I can go and start taking from people, and I don't have to buy it. I can take it. Now my wealth is accumulating. You see what I mean? Now, not only is my wealth accumulating, I have so much wealth that now I'm loaning money. I become a bank. And I charge you interest. So the money I loan you, you have to pay me back points of that money. And now my economic system is even thriving even more. So when you see Great Western, U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, all of these, and then all these investment companies and all of that, that's where the wealth is coming from. Okay, so the 10 heads are the 10 kings that shall rule with the beast for a short period of time. Read on.
Verse 13. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast.
See that? So they have one mind, but they will not go against the beast. They're not going against them seven heads, even though they're their own independent countries. They're linked in and they know their place. Read on.
These shall make war with the Lamb.
But they're also going to link up with the beast to fight against Christ. Now we're getting into our deliverance. Y'all see that?
Man,
Do y'all see that? So see, we went from Babylon to Persia to Greece to Rome, from Rome Caesars up to the tetrarchy that Rome set up, to the fall of Rome in 472, to the 1,000-year where his head was wounded, re-emerging in 1472, the Renaissance. Now its heads are blossoming. America's forming. The other seven heads are starting to get their power. Israel's being oppressed, and it brings us up to now. You see how that happens?
God.
And no time was left out. So now we see that America, he said it's the eighth. So if America's the eighth kingdom and they're going to only rule a short span, we're already 400 years plus into America's rulership.
Right.
So now we see why Israel's waking up at these record numbers, because our kingdom is starting to build up now, why their kingdom is about to come down.
Yep.
All the prophecies have linked up, bringing us to now. America's the eighth. See, that kingdom had to come up before we can even think of the end. So when the apostles were asking, well, Lord, which shall be the end of the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? We have to take all this into consideration. Now, after we see this, we go back to Matthew 24. Remember, he says, now you shall see wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, pestilences, famines. Man,
So,
how much is your grocery bill now?
Man, the food is fake. I think you should because you kind of breaking it down. Two things, like if you could touch on, I mean, maybe not tonight, but if you could touch on like the actual events that's going to happen during the times of chaos, like Jacob's trouble.
God.
You know what I mean? Like, and then after like our deliverance and what we'll be doing in the kingdom. I know you did one of those a long time ago, man. It was beautiful, but just, going into like our tribulation, because we still got to face tribulation, right? Some of us still got to get killed and stuff like that. Yeah,
for sure.
Even like the miracles too, because I know some camps, no disrespect to no other brothers, but some people teach that the miracles aren't literal. We're not going to be able to do the miracles that Christ said that we'll be able to do. So things like that within the last days too,
Right.
Like,
yeah, all of those things, and that'll be something that we can definitely go into. Y'all want to hear that? Y'all want to go into that?
I do. Like the miracle. Huh?
But do y'all see how important it is when you understand the beast? And I keep saying this, and this is why I put this as a big chapter in my book, because when you understand about the beast, it gives you so much coverage of what's going on with Israel and how we understand the time frames we're living in according to prophecy. Because the beast was talked about in Daniel, and it goes all the way into Second Ezra. Then it comes back into Revelation. Christ mentions it. Then we're able to see it now, because now we see the eighth beast come, and it's you can't deny that. You can't. When it says that all nations have drunk of the wrath of the wine of her fornication and the cup of her fear, what other country could that be? That's the what it says, Babylon the great, mother of harlots and of all the abominations of the earth. The most abominable things that the scriptures talk about are carried out daily and without penalty in America. In so much they even make laws for it. You see what I'm saying? So it's no way around that. Now we see how the seven heads, the 10 horns came about, how the beast that was and is not, but yet is, which is America, because it was Rome at that time. America hadn't been formed, but yet it had been, because why? It comes from Rome.
Yeah.
And it's a part of the seven heads. It's a part of that same beast of the Edomite nation. And what's going to happen? Christ is going to fight against it. Let's continue on.
So let's go where we were at verse 13, right?
14.
14, Salakia. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings.
So now watch this. So that means that America has to come up, and after America comes up, Christ takes over. You see the detail? Why? Now it makes sense why Rome was the last beast that Daniel saw before Christ came up.
Yep.
See, Daniel didn't see Rome at its fullness in the future. He just saw Rome was a beast that was going to be strong. He didn't see the detail. Ezra got a little bit of it, but we know that after that fourth beast, Christ comes as the next kingdom to take over forever.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have a clue at that time that Rome was going to rule for all that time, for almost 2,000 years.
Yeah.
But that fills the prophecy of the 2 days that's mentioned in Hosea chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
After 2 days, well, that 2,000 years it's come.
Yeah.
Now notice this: the 2,000 years has expired. The fourth beast is still in power. America has come up as it was prophesied, and Esau's in control, which is Esau's the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. You cannot deny we're not in the last days.
Man.
You cannot. Now we know the time frame. Matthew 24 picks up with where Christ starts to explain the things that we're going to start seeing. Pestilences. Well, we just recovered from that. Look at what happened with COVID.
We're at the COVID. Yeah.
But that was one that crippled the world. But guess what? There's a whole lot more to come. COVID was nothing compared to what the scriptures talk about that's going to come. COVID was a rehearsal.
Man.
And guess what? People, it's unfortunate. Some people lost loved ones or what have you, but according to what the scriptures say, that's nothing. People will go back and wish COVID was what it was when the Most High brings these plagues that he's talking about. Remember, he said he's going to bring things that that you have never even heard of.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying? And it's going to be so much chaos. You got to remember, look at what happened with Egypt. If you want to understand what's going to happen, go back to what happened when Israel was delivered from Egypt, because it's a spiritual Egypt. He turned the water into blood. Well, look at our water supply. It's all messed up. That's why we got to drink purified water. You see that, showing you that the Most High is powerful element. Every nation that's in here, countries is in a drought.
True.
You see what's going on?
Yeah.
So that means the vegetation is dropping, animals are dying. So the food supply and demand, the shortage of food, the prices go up.
Yep.
That's why when you read in the 7 seals, when he said he opened one of the seals and he said he saw a measure of wheat for a penny and a measure of, I believe it was measure of wheat or a measure of corn for a penny.
Right.
But why is he saying that? Because when you go to the parable about the tares, remember the master pays each worker a penny a day.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's showing you that technically just to get one measure of corn is going to cost you a day's pay. That's how expensive food is going to be.
Man, it's happening.
And you see it's going up. They had some astronomical price for eggs and all this other stuff, but then you have the GMO stuff. So the stuff we're eating is not even healthy.
Real. Yeah, it's not even real.
See what I'm saying? So technically, then you got to look at it. How much longer do you think these powers have? Because there's nothing, the resources are gone. You think we can live another 100 years? You think live in this condition we can last another 100 years? Look at the situation. Look at the violence and murder that's happening. These random killings and all of this stuff. I mean, the mind frame of the people is just going.
Yep.
So you got that part to deal with. Then you have the pestilences. You know, you have the sicknesses, cancer, diabetes, leukemia. You have so many things that was kind of fizzling out, but now they're back at astronomical rates now. The sicknesses that's there.
I want to get this article that a brother had sent in a group chat. Lab grown meat is approved for sale in the U.S.
Look at that.
Lab growing meat in the lab. So it's not even like clone meat. Like it's meat grown. It's meat grown in the lab.
Man,
our meat is that's why that Ezekiel 4:13 will eat our defiled meat.
Yeah.
You know,
It's crazy, but yeah, we'll definitely go into that. I want to yeah, let's finish up real quick so we can show. I want to kind of finish this up and wrap it up. Read verse 14 again.
verse 14. Salakia, these verses are small. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful.
So we want to be with Christ, be that chosen and called and faithful. You understand? And the only way to be that way is to be locked into the commandments of the Most High. That's our remedy. You know, that's our protection in these times. You know, we got to endure because, you know, Satan is shooting his darts and America's doing its number and deceiving people and what have you. The beast is still running rampant, spreading lies and doing all of that. But with the truth, we're able to see through it. Read on.
Verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
See, so it wasn't water like liquid. It was actually dealing with people. So showing you that the whore is sitting over multitudes of people, tongues, and what have you. America's the whore that actually sits upon all the whole beast. America's the chief.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the 7 heads and the 10 horns, and here comes this little horn that grows to be more powerful than them all. And also afflicting the people of the Most High.
God.
Read on.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore.
So now that shows you how America is going to start getting taken down by its own people.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like what happened with Rome when they started conquering each other, America has done so much damage. The nations hate America. Mm-hmm. They can't fight against it, but what? They're going to start getting a little bit stronger and having a little bit more guts to start going against America. That's all the work of the Most High. Mm-hmm. They say they shall hate the whore. That's why nations speak against America. They need America, but they hate America.
God.
See how it works? That's why it says when America falls, the nation shall clap their hands and be like, damn. And then America's going to fall, and the rest of the beast is going to fall. And that's where Esau is taken out. Mm-hmm. You understand? Esau, the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. Remember that scripture. It's crucial. Read on.
And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
That's the destruction Christ is going to do to America and all the countries that's laying with it. Read on.
For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled.
So are we seeing the words being fulfilled?
It's undeniable.
See? So the kingdom that were, promised to other kingdoms or whatever, now the beast has control of all of that. Mm-hmm. And remember, this is our world. The world was created for our sake. We're supposed to be ruling the world. But until we fulfill the words of the Most High, the beast has power. Like going back to Esau, Jacob. So now it makes sense when we read in Genesis 25, when it says that the elder shall serve the younger. You see? Esau, and it said when they were born, Esau came out and Jacob grabbed hand to take Esau's heel. That's Israel taking Esau out of power. Mm-hmm. When did Esau get that power? It started in 333 BC under the Greeks. Mm-hmm. His power continued through the Romans all the way up to now until his 7 heads, 10 horns, and America. And that's his kingdom, ruling the entire earth, according to prophecy. Mm-hmm. There's no other country or no other nation of people that can fulfill that. That cannot apply to the Chinese people. That cannot apply to the Arabs. That cannot apply to an African. That can't even apply to the Israelites because we don't have no power at this time.
Right.
There's only one nation of people, race of people on the earth that can fit this bill of having nations in total control, operating from different areas of the world, is the so-called white man, Esau.
Hands down.
There's no other nation. Period. You want to call them Russian Caucasian, American Caucasian, Spanish, French, German Caucasian, they're all the same nation of people. Mm-hmm. as prophesied that he was to have rule over the earth. But now watch this. Go to 2 Thessalonians.
You can grab it.
Chapter 2. This is the last one. So this is also prophecy of how we know when the ends will come.
This is Thessalonians, what chapter?
Chapter 2, and I want to read verse 3.
God, this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3.
Watch this.
Let no man deceive you by any means,
For
that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition.
So it said, don't be deceived. That day will not come. Two things have to happen. There shall be a falling away first. Israel has to fall away from the Most High, be taken into captivity and scattered throughout the earth. Has that happened? Do we now know who the son of perdition is? Which is Esau. We know who he is now. Now we can verify who he is.
Yep.
And we can prove that he is, because now, see, we wouldn't be able to call if Esau was in his kingdom, you know, when we were ruling, he didn't have this kingdom. So that wouldn't have fit him at that time. Someone can argue and say, well, that can't even be Rome, because Rome only controlled the areas of Asia, Israel, parts of Egypt. They didn't have control of the world. You're right. But when John saw Rome at its fullness, now they have control of the world.
That deadly one was healed and they took over again.
There you go. And now we see that only applies to one nation or race of people, which is so-called white man. So, and he, remember, son of perdition, meaning the son of hell, the son of wickedness. Lest there be any profane person or what does it say? Any fornicator or profane person is Esau.
Yep.
That's him. He's been revealed now. It's not a mystery anymore. We see who he is. So how will we know? He said, don't be deceived. These things have to happen first. Those two things have been fulfilled. Plus the timeline I just showed you. We're in that time. Continue. Watch this.
Verse 4. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God.
Well, who's exalting and who opposes the Most High, first of all?
Right.
Only one man.
And who's exalting himself above the Most High?
Esau.
Only one man.
Man, read on.
God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
This is his complex. But who's sitting in the temple of the Most High, claiming to be the children of the Most High?
Man.
Yep.
Who's taking all the artwork and changing the image of Christ and God and all the angels to look like him?
Renaissance. Yep.
Crazy.
See? Then opposes and says there is no God. Can't deny it. Read on.
Verse 5. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. And now you know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time.
See that? So everything's revealed in his time, but now we know. That's why Paul was writing to them, telling them, I told you what's going to have to happen first. So you want to know in the last day? Stop asking me. These things have to happen. Well, now we're able to see that these things unfolded. Now we see that we're in those end times. Esau's ruling. 2,000 years have expired since Christ came and passed away. All the kingdoms that was prophesied to come up has come up. America has been born. America's in power, 400 plus years into its power.
Yep.
Now it's starting to come down. Israel is now, as prophesied, waking up in record numbers now.
Record numbers.
You see what I mean? So our kingdom, you see our nation is being built up. That's why Christ said, when he said the kingdom of the Lord, don't look here and forward, the kingdom of heaven is in you. We are the holders of the kingdom in our spirit, in our minds. And we first have to build it here. And that comes with what? Building up our spirit in repentance, coming back to the commandments, following the Most High. As we do that, now we're able to start physically building our kingdom. Because we can't build a kingdom if we're still divided and fighting each other and arguing and debating and all this other stuff. You can't have that going into war. You understand? Read on.
Verse 7. For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work, or doth already work.
So the mystery of iniquity, dealing with the so-called white man, it said it doth already work, because it was. How was it already working? Because Rome was in power at this time that Paul is writing this. And we see that the kingdom is still in power today in 2023. Read on.
Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way.
Meaning only people that are allowing this man and his philosophies and ways to overtake them will allow that until he be taken out of the way. That's why I said, be not partakers of her sins. Read on.
And then shall that wicked be revealed.
See, now he's revealed. We see him now. The wicked is revealed. Read on.
Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
Now he's revealed. We see the prophecies. Next is Christ to do what? Come and destroy him. Take his dominion and put Israel as rulers of the world. Read on.
Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan.
Now remember, what did we read in Revelation 13? It said all his the beast, Satan gave him all his seat and his authority and his power. Mm-hmm. That's why I said whose coming is as the working of Satan. Mm. Y'all see that? Read on.
With all power and signs and lying wonders.
See that? With power, with technology, lying, all of his information that he put out there and falsifying materials and all of that. This dude, man, he's got to come down. So hopefully, everybody got some understanding. We'll go over that last days, because now we're at that point to start talking about that.
Right.
Yeah. Now we showed the prophecies and go over those lessons, Israel. If you haven't seen the videos that we did before, watch those, because the timeline, the activities that happen are important to understanding how we know that we're in these last times. Mm-hmm. And then that also too, it's that refreshing, because now we see it. It confirms it confirms the accuracy of the Bible, confirms the fact that the scriptures are true, and it shows us that everything that the Most High has said has come to pass. Remember, he said, "All of these, not one of these shall fail." Mm. You see what I'm saying? Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. Everything that's written that was to happen has happened, and we're able to see it. And not only are we able to see it from the Bible, we could go into history and start looking at the same activities the Bible's talked about before it happened. We can read about it now and look at it to say, damn, that's just confirmation of the word of the Lord. That is true. You know what I mean?
Man, hey, Elder, I'm so happy that you're able to and use this platform to get your teachings back available. Because I remember, when I used to when you had your teachings up beforehand, they got taken down. So it's just so refreshing that now you're just stacking the channel up with these breakdowns. And what I would say, because I go back and I watched when you first started breaking down on the channel. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, Israel, the scripture says there's going to be a famine of the word. So take heed to these lessons, because they might not be readily available like they are right now. You know what I mean? Like Esau might crack down wholeheartedly and just get right now. The Most High has his ego puffed up, so he's keeping him, allowing us to teach and use the platforms. But soon, it's going to be a famine of the word. You're going to have to travel to go see the prophets. You're not going to be able to go on YouTube. So while the elder is laying these powerful lessons down, go back and watch these things. I mean, he's breaking stuff down to the T. Go back and watch these lessons. We upload these things. Go back a couple weeks ago. Watch all the previous lessons. Get this knowledge. Get this information. Write it down. I know we in the digital age.
Download it.
The elders used to always say this. Esau can turn this off. He can turn this off. So you don't want to get into a habit of just keeping videos and stuff, even downloading it. That's cool. But if you turn off the computers or whatever, you want to make sure you write these things down. Like get a binder specifically for the elders classes and write them down, or specifically for whatever Israelite classes and write them down.
And get your Bible. Stop using your phones and all of that. I know it's good for little, quick references and stuff like that, but always have you an actual hard, actual physical Bible too, because they're going to start burning these and making these illegal.
Yeah, that man, the Bibles, and also too the elders book. You know what I mean? That do I have it on me right now? Is it in the car? Let me see if I have it. You have your book on you, Elder? I think
you know what?
If you haven't, If
Let me
you
get it.
you got your grab yours. He got
Yeah,
it.
it's upstairs. I have one.
And another thing too, like the elder, has written a book, All Praises through the Spirit of the Most High, to go into a lot of these understandings. So when Esau does, the Most High has put this spirit on the elder. So when Esau does start to take these things offline, to start taking videos down, you have a book you can go to, and you can keep this in your possession so you don't forget none of these teachings, because these teachings are all in this book, A Mind Well Instructed, all right, by Ra'im Israel. Check it out. All I'm saying is get all the resources you can.
That's
Get
right.
your Bible, get your lessons, write the lessons down, get the literature the Most High has put the spirit on the elder, the prophet, to write these things down. Gather these things together so that when it's the famine of the word time, you'll be able to have these things. And don't take these classes for granted. Go back and watch these things. That's why I'm so grateful that I'm able to give the elder a platform to get these teachings back online, because man, elder, you remember you had the forum.
Con.
I used to go that the forum was where I used to get my sharpening. You know what I mean? So when that got restricted, that hurt my heart. So the fact that now you're in even your classes, when I used to go back and watch your old school classes. So the fact that we had this platform to get you back going and get this knowledge back out here. And then for the record, because we're gonna close out. So for all you guys out there that be joking about me, like, this young brother must be watching such and such classes because he doesn't know that. He just a reject watching our stuff and teach. Nope, I got it from an elder. Because I did a Mark of the Beast lesson a minute ago. Yeah. So you know
So
what?
I ain't never taught you, brother.
Yeah. but man, please, Israel, get on these classes, get on these lessons, study. And I'm talking about myself too. We can't take this for granted.
Yeah.
We cannot take this for granted.
No,
This
right.
brother just broke down like 4 complex lessons and simplified it.
Yeah.
So go. And we got more to come, because I think we're gonna go into the tribulation next, right? Next.
Con. I think the people want to go into that. We've been kind of doing this little last days kind of like sequel little series or what have you, kind of just going over some prophecies. And I'm just keeping them simple just so that, again, we can get the history. A lot of things I'm a reference so that, you guys can go in and research them. It's a lot of this stuff is just like basic, and then you can just build off of that. Like you want to learn about, like America, like we were talking about this evening, get, that basic history, understand like what was the wars that was fought. Then once you start looking at, these different wars, you'll start to see how the Native American Indians played into that too. And that'll start guiding you into that, and how then you get the Buffalo Soldier, and you see what I'm saying? You start to see how you get these different, how Israel always got somehow tangled up, and it just takes you into that. Then you start to get into taking in on journeys into Central America, then to the Caribbean islands, and you start looking at the colonization, and then you start to see how France started to get more and more corrupt, and how it began to influence America, and how they started to have their feuds and things like that. And you see, so once you start to take these lessons and start building on them, it's just going to only enhance you even more. Take those things, learn more about the heads, learn about Russia, learn about Germany, learn about Spain, France, Great Britain, things like that. We hear about it, but rarely is it really like sought after. You have to really like to read. You have to really want to be curious to get into learning how these kingdoms came about. And in that way, like I always tell, when you guys were coming up and what have you, we tell you, man, don't be a parrot. Go back and you research the information.
Right.
And learn.
Always see that.
Don't be dependent on people to just teach you and what have you. Always, a teacher is good, but you take that information and you go back and look at it. Let's go to the book of Acts real quick. I'll take it with one thing.
Con. Let me know what you
17 and 11.
you got it, Doc. You got it. You there.
God. This is Acts chapter 17 and verse 11.
Uh-huh.
These were more normal than those in Thessalonica.
So in this particular situation, when the apostles went to teach, it says that those in this area were a lot more noble, meaning they were had more wisdom and more intellectual capacity when the apostles taught them. But why? What made them have this? Read on.
God. And that they received the word with all readiness of mind.
Uh-huh.
And searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so.
You see that? So they heard the word, they received it with all readiness of mind, but it said they searched the scriptures daily to confirm that those things that were said were true, meaning that they were actually said. They didn't just hear something and believe it and run with it. They actually heard it, they received it, and they actually went back over it to confirm, to make sure that they did their own research and not just, being spoon-fed.
Yeah.
So like the brother's saying, that only builds you up even stronger, not to be dependent upon another individual. Let the Most High work with you too.
Yeah. God, man, beautiful, man. Like I said, I'm a student too. So when the elder teaching, I'm writing, taking notes, and I'm going back. So, we all learning, and this is just a pleasure to be able to have you, elder. So, Most High willing, we'll be back next Friday with another powerful class, and we'll continue to go into these things. We love you, Israel. Also too, yeah. Make sure family tune in for the ending Sabbath class, which would be at 4:30. What we're in Western Pacific time?
God.
Yeah, Western Pacific time, 4:30 p.m. We'll have a closing Sabbath class. If you are in the Bay Area, we are starting to have Sabbath classes in the Bay Area. We are officially starting Bay Area class tomorrow. Class will begin at 3:00 tomorrow because we have a General Assembly. So if you are in the Bay Area and you would like to come to class, please email us at Believers of the Way. All right, Believers of the Way. I think I just gave somebody the email. So let me just go ahead and put this email right here. So yeah, Believers of the Way 144k at gmail.com. If you're in the Bay Area and you want to come to have a sit down class with us, we're starting classes in the Bay Area. Email us and we'll give you the address to where we're holding class. Other than that, please like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share the content, because this content is not only getting out because of us teaching the word, but also you sharing and simply liking the video is helping the content reach more people. So please like, share, and subscribe. It's for free. You know what I mean? And we love you guys. So until next Sabbath and tomorrow, 4:30 class, we'll see you guys. Shalom. I hope you guys have a blessed night. Brother, you real quick, if you want us to come to SAC, email us. Email us if you want us to come to Sacramento, because we have no problem with going to Sacramento. So just email us. Our email is right here, Believers of the Way, 144k at gmail.com. Love you, family. Thank you for supporting us. And pretty soon, BLW will be in all states.
That's right.
All right. So we coming to it. We soon will be in a state near you. Just stay rocking with us. All right. Shalom, family.
Shalom. All right. Shalom, Israel.
All right. Shalom, elder.